What's going on, guys? It's the Ma here.
I'm Cheesy Potato.
Yeah, I'm playing in the TELUS Invitational.
I've always really been a gamer, playing Halo, and then I eventually transitioned into Call of Duty, into Fortnite as Battle Royales became a little more popular. And then I eventually stepped into Apex Legends. The thought of becoming a content creator was just a mere dream that I had. My brother, Dr. Moz, pushed me out of my comfort zone to essentially start streaming, and that's when the grind for competitive Apex and chasing high Apex Predator ranks began.
Started Apex at day zero, first day the game came out. And yeah, I worked hard then. I was playing on console at first and just playing pubs all the time with a couple buddies. The longer Apex went on, the more serious I got about it. I started putting in more hours, putting in more work, making more content, like falling in love with the game in general. The only advice that I would give is basically just grind and put in the hours. It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Just find like a solid group of friends that have the same mindset as you and then just grind.
The biggest thing is putting yourself out there, whether that's chasing high ranks for content creation or to start scrimming and competing in tournaments at the highest levels, such as the Apex TELUS tournament.
I was fine when you pulled me down. You said the stars would answer. You said our prayers were written down. I was fine when you pulled me in. We were forced to be human, and then the world came after, and I had never questioned it. And they said
Run up. High speed
They're
chase.
running. Face him.
Yo, what's going on?
Crack, 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 what?
What is this game?
Oh, I'm lagging.
Go to spike, Mike, on. Go down.
No, down.
Je te tape dessus, je te tape dessus. Il est sur le pad, il est mort. Go down. Chill.
Oh no, down here, bro. Free. Actually free. I down one. Doctor cracked the wall. Will you shoot the catalyst? She's down. I'm gonna grenade her. One more in the corner.
Yep.
Dead.
He's one.
I got her.
Box,
You're dead.
the box, ulting.
I got three.
Nice.
Teams out there. Last one. Last team.
Nice. Watson Bence is my king. Bronze Bonobos, they're popping in on the other end of this engagement. Seeing if they do, Molten Mania almost completely shreds a red shield, starts to make this impossible. And what an angle! Not have a lot of cover, but I believe have a little bit of low ground.
Never mind.
Play maybe a head peek, and oh my lord! It's the dreams of yet another cut short.
Again, how do you push this without putting your team in too much jeopardy? That's the question.
So few legends that can actually find you a different way up there. Horizon being one, Pathfinder being right now, but here it comes. Shinbi's already put this out, and it means that Big Smashers get to take the fight up against the two-man squad of level 4 Gucci Purse and wipe the floor with them, along with Lane as well. I mean, LTB got a lot of competitive experience here. The thing they don't have is a lot of cover proficiency. Lane left wondering what the next move is going to do, trying to push Marsh next nearly as well as the crafted Volt that Marsh has. Up goes the Catalyst Wall. It forces out the Seer ult, and Wee Poutine are going for the end here. Take the swing on Molten Mania, and yet he gets knocked. Pergix fighting back as Wee Poutine do trade in the 1-for-1. Frodon gets some good damage down with the R99, and it is enough. It is enough to push them out. The Bronze Bonobos have to drop down, have to take this 2v2 against the Milkers, and now a chance to drop down to play this Wraith knockdown shield. They keep him down, and yet Bronze Bonobos have cover as well. 2 versus 1, and it should be their game. The Bronze Bonobos from second, now finally find first. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the TELUS Esports Series. And to some of you, a very warm welcome for the first time as we are kicking off our finals in the Intermediate Division today. My name is Dia, and I am joined by Crackshot as we've got, well, an uncertain amount of games to break down tonight, Crackshot. How long can this go? With match point, anything is possible.
It can go 2 games, it could go 20 games. We don't know. That's the fun. Match point is something that a lot of these players will be experiencing for the first time, and it'll be something that I'm excited for everybody to be able to witness for the first time. I'm excited for it to be a part of the TELUS Esports Series for the first time.
Yeah, this is going to be, as you've mentioned, a big inaugural event for us here, being able to talk about the TELUS Esports Series, witness Canadian talent, and for each of the individual talent themselves being able to show up in the premier format of Apex Legends. Now, these teams have already played through 4 weeks of qualifying rounds in order to get here, and have managed to weather the storm of, I forget how many teams even registered in the Intermediate Division, too many to count now. We've whittled it all the way down to just the top 20, the 20 best of this Intermediate Division in Canada right now. And they get to strut their stuff on the big stage. I actually want to take a look if we've got it at the teams that will be competing today. And we can talk a little bit about the format and what this means, Crackshot. If you haven't seen Apex Legends before, what is a match point?
So, match point format is an idea that sort of came to light in the past couple years in Apex of, okay, let's have these teams reach a certain amount of points. As you can see on this graphic here on phase 2, it actually says 50 points. Today we're playing to 40 points. Now, once you hit those 40 points, you then have to win a game. So if a team has 40 points coming into a game, then they win that next game, they will be crowned the champion. It's basically like a win by 2, but for battle royales is what you're looking at here with match point. Again, a lot of these teams not probably used to playing this format. It can be definitely a marathon rather than a sprint. It can be a long gaming session, but of course it also has the opportunity with it being 40 points for a team to come out the gate hot and a team to put themselves in a position where now they can change their gameplay. All they have to do is be that last team surviving. Kill points don't matter for them anymore, and that's what makes it exciting.
And let's take a look at what they stand to win. As we did mention, this is the finals, and there's plenty of prizing on the line, generously provided by our sponsors and by TELUS. And $50,000 in gaming merchandise from really the top of the line brands are going to be available for these teams. It is across the entire event, so if you do win tonight's finals, you'll be walking away with a healthy chunk of that as one of our intermediate finalists.
Absolutely. Shouts out, of course, to all of our sponsors, but the HyperX stuff being available to these teams is what they're playing for tonight, and we'll have some more details for you on that later in the show. But for right now, these are the final standings after those 4 weeks of play that Dia had alluded to just previously here. Now, going into tonight, it doesn't matter. It's anybody's game. And that's what I like about the way that we're choosing to do things here at the TELUS Esports Series 2, is that anybody can win tonight. You can see it is a little bit top heavy. You've got teams like Washington Slosh who showed up every single week. Crimson Lotus not too far behind them. You know, shouts out to some of our collegiate teams like SCC, St. Clair College. Got to give some shouts out to Saints Gaming, of course. But of course, you know, we've got teams like Balance and Olympus Enjoyers who are able to sneak their way in at the bottom of the leaderboard there. I believe there's actually 4 or 5 teams that actually catapulted themselves into that top 20 during week 4's placement matches. And because of that, they've got a chance at prizes today.
Yeah, Teletubbies, Balance, Olympus Enjoyers, all among those squads that barely squeaked their way into these finals. At the same time, teams like DWB barely held on to top 20. As you can already tell, the points are really close. 169 points to 175, that's not a lot. But I also want to recognize that we're talking about these points as if they mean something, and they do. But there are certainly some people that are tuning in today are maybe getting their first time watching Apex Legends. So real quick, Crackshot, we're just going to talk about Apex Legends and how we score it in general, because this is a battle royale. 20 teams will be competing in every game, and as you mentioned, winning a game does mean being the last one standing. That'll net you 12 points, with second place netting you 9, third place netting you 7, and everybody gets placement points that continue cascading down until you hit 15th, at which point you get 0 for placing in the bottom 5. However, there is one other way to accumulate points. It's my favorite way of accumulating points. Crackshot, what is it?
Get some kills, baby. You gotta rack up the kills. You're going to be rewarded for playing aggressively so long as you're able to make good on your pushes with your team. We saw this playstyle work out well for some teams. There is a risk, though, of course, as you're seeing here. The placement points, those are more of a surefire way to guarantee yourself some points. But of course, once you really get out of that top 5 position, even down into that 4th and 5th place position, you're not talking about a ton of points there. You know, the kill points are really, if you can play aggressively, not only are you guaranteeing your team some additional points, you're whittling down the lobby, so you're getting a chance to place higher and get more points yourself, and as well, you're making sure that they are only able to access, you know, a certain amount of points for finishing in the lower parts. So I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can play this. We've seen some teams that are really want to secure those placement points more than anything, because again, it's been 4 weeks of games. With 4 weeks of games, that's a chance to accumulate a fair amount of points as long as you're finishing consistently within that top 5 to 7 positions. But that said, we've also seen some teams who would rather, you know, go for broke and try and rack up those huge high point games and get aggressive right off the rip. It's really interesting to see those two play styles in the server, as well as many other ones with different team compositions that we're going to see tonight. Super excited to see what we've got here in the finals. Super excited to see if teams decide to adjust their play style in accordance with match point format as the night goes on. And yeah, lots of Apex to get at tonight.
Yeah, and especially once you hit match point, if you are one of those first couple teams eligible, sometimes it is worth going for broke and playing for the big win. If you can get yourself a really nice rotation, you can find high ground and hopefully translate that into some sort of W, but with a lot of other teams looking for exactly the same thing, clamoring for every point they can get, the barrier to execution is never higher than it is in finals like this in Apex Legends. As we've already talked about, we've got a lot of teams that have set themselves up throughout the week, but you talked about something interesting, Crackshot: consistency. Those teams that are consistent throughout tonight's games, they're the ones that are going to be our top contenders for, if not first, second, third, fourth, cascading down. We've got a lot of games lined up today, and I can't wait to jump into it.
Of course. So tonight we're going to be running maps World Edge and Storm Point. Those are the two competitive maps in the rotation, and we'll be going 3 for 3 tonight. So 3 World's Edge to start, and then after that, should we need it, maybe a team's going to take it in 3. Who knows? At that point, who knows? We'll see what happens. But it's going to be 3 World's Edge, 3 Storm Point, and I believe we are ready to get started, Dia.
Yeah, let's jump into the first game of the Intermediate Divisions Finals here in the TELUS Esports Series. Everybody's already hit the ground on World's Edge, and everybody's still standing. I'm taking a look, seeing if we got any hot drops over there. Of course, Lava City Big Mod, always going to be 2 squads that can fight each other, but at the very beginning of the game, it does seem like, surprisingly, and counter to a lot of the play that we saw in the regular season, everybody's mostly decided to leave each other alone. Even those 2 teams that landed right next door to each other in Lava Siphon, playing it safe for now.
Of course. And, we made a spot in the Discord, we'll shut that out later, where, teams were able to communicate their drop spots ahead of time. That is not uncommon for competitive Apex, for teams to say, hey, we're going to be dropping here. And I didn't know if it was a joke or not, but a team said, we would just like to let everybody know that we're going to be contesting you at this spot, and this spot. Just to be kind, just want to let them know, hey, you're going to be fighting off the rip because we want that spot too. I wanted to see if it was somebody was just joking around, maybe trying to get in the heads of their opponent. We'll see. I don't know. It's a long night. You want to take any kind of advantage that you can get, Dia.
Yeah, and at least half of Apex Legends, especially in match point format, is that mental. As the games go on and as the win continues to be denied to so many squads who can keep their heads in the game and constantly play, not just not to lose, but in actuality to find the win. RHHS, they're one of our squads that are starting over by Climatizer, and they'll have a pretty easy rotation into the zone for the first couple of rings. This first one pulling really close to home here, and since they are running that classic Apex Legends Global Series style Seer Valkyrie Catalyst, there's a lot of flexibility on this team, no matter what beacon they may find, to be able to pick up information on the rest of the teams that are rotating in, or where that next zone will be.
And once they know where that is, because of that Valkyrie, they'll be able to reposition, right? They've kind of got it all in front of them, and they're able to play a very thought-out game because of it here with RHHS. So I'm not expecting them to be super aggressive, as with a team composition like this, you don't really need to be, right? I've said it before, and it's worked out quite a few times so far in our weekly matchups. Letting the game come to you can sometimes be the best thing you can do in a hectic BR like Apex Legends.
That seems to be the plan for RHHS. When you're looking for early rotation squads, people that want to play center zone, you'll typically see them move a lot sooner than RHHS are, who are playing the slow game and instead sort of making their way into the ring now. They've got a really good idea of where this is going to close, as this does seem like one of those heavy overlook-sided pulls, but we will get to see as the game does continue to play out. We want to look at other squads that are making their way into zone from different areas of the map. Washed and Sloshed, actually an excellent example, being our team that is at the top of the leaderboard going into today. They are running not a stock standard composition. They've got Wraith, Newcastle, Bloodhound, and are going to be making their way right through the center of the map.
Yeah, it looks like they want to, start hot and heavy. That's what they want to do. And with a comp like this, I guess, you can kind of expect it. This is kind of a team that I expect everybody to not necessarily be afraid of, but sort of, you got to beat the best if you want to be the best. And coming into today, they had a lot of very strong performances throughout their weekly matches. And so, teams looking at that say, hey, if we can take these guys down early, then, whose game is it? I guess it doesn't really matter, though, for Axie. I guess that's how we'll say that. Is that close, you think?
Yeah, I think that's pretty close. I'll go with Axie for now. Washed and Sloshed, however, they're gonna go with it as well, picking up that last hit. Frapper does go down what I can only assume to be a 2v3, but with the res out of this Newcastle, Washed and Sloshed do have a really skirmish-oriented composition that should let them reset with ease. When you've got the Bloodhound for full information, the Wraith for mobility, and the Newcastle to play this sort of battle anchor that we know he can compositionally, you've already got yourself an advantage in these isolated 3v3s, and that's exactly what Washed and Sloshed have found themselves.
Yeah, they've now got Frapper up and in full health, and he's headed straight into combat. Really wants to initiate it here. It looks like some damage coming out from 8 Second. The scan is going to be good here. It's got some good information, and it does look like Anarchy is going to fall.
Unfortunately, taken out. Anarchy, the first squad to drop, and Washed and Sloshed do sit back and wait for this, what they think is a third party to roll in. With the Rolling Thunder coming down, you can understand why. BFG did get involved in this fight, and for Washed and Sloshed playing it defensive for right now, sitting back and seeing what happens around the outside, whether even more squads start to roll in, is the safest play for them. They haven't got the meds or the loot off of the squad they just took out, and you need that if you're going to reset confidently.
Yep, you're going to have to reset here. Again, you even see Washington Sloshed, one of these top teams in the division. You know, in another weekly matchup, they might have just said, okay, we can win this engagement right off the rip. Let's run straight at this team that's trying to third party us, you know, send a message. But the fact that they back down, get full HP before, you know, rethinking how they're going to approach this potential engagement, it tells me that they're playing with, you know, the championship in mind today.
I Washed and Sloshed are one of those teams that I was so excited to watch today, and it's because of the way that they've made their path into these finals. They've started off in top 6. It's great placement. I mean, after week 1, you really couldn't ask for more. Placing top 5 is incredible. And yet the miraculous thing about Washed and Sloshed is that they have not dropped a placement during the course of these weeklies. They've continued to improve week after week, finally finding themselves in first place after just the last week of play. Crimson Lotus, one of those squads that was up right next to them, that started off at the top and now maybe falling early. They've lost one, but a quick portal out may be exactly what they need. Will it be in time? Crimson Lotus going to get that res. Portal not going to be used just yet. It doesn't look like they're being pushed up on this high ground. Even the squad on the low playing conservatively for now.
They don't want to rush at Crimson Lotus. Maybe they realize, hey, this is Crimson Lotus we're looking at, and they're the second place team coming in today. And that's kind of what makes a team like Washington Sloshed, who's constantly been going up in placement. You've got a team, Crimson Lotus, representing Lotus 8 Esports out of Manitoba, Canada. I mean, that's a team that's been, again, one of those top consistent squads, able to pull off a couple of wins themselves. You know, just because you get one knock running up the hill into what's a 3-on-2 before they might have the res off. I mean, there's a lot of uncalculated variables and a chance that even with that knock, I respect them for not taking it.
It's definitely wise, conservative play. Crimson Lotus continuing to use what they had earlier. This high ground advantage that's let them intimidate other squads out of pushing them, and they're translating it into even more, being confident enough to play the choke point in between Lava Siphon and Fragment and just farm up a little bit of damage here and there. For AAC, it's not going to matter. Gold Shields is as good as they get. But for CJam and Zilla, who still have the chance to level their way up through dealing damage to other players and get that purple shield and eventually the red, which will provide you with 25 extra effective HP at each level, is going to be a big difference maker when they eventually reach the end game.
And this is an end game that I'm going to be excited for. You know, with the weekly lobbies, you know, in intermediate, there being 5 of them, almost 100 teams signed up for this division. The lobbies weren't as top heavy as they're going to be in this final and the other finals. So I'm expecting to see a lot more crowded end games, a lot more, you know, a lot more excitement, I guess, in those final circles where teams are really going to be, you know, smashing it out with each other in what is going to turn out to likely not be a very large area.
RHHS confining themselves to a smaller area as well. They've played things really slow, remember, landing up by Climatizer. They finally take a late Valk ult into where they suspect the next zone will be. And as we'll recall, the fact that they have a Catalyst and a place to scan the zone should mean that RHHS's prediction is accurate. If it isn't, this squad will fall before reaching top 10.
Looking at SCC now, again, shouts out to the St. Clair guys, of course. It's obligatory, okay? Alumni here, gotta shout out the program. Love what they're doing over there at Saints Gaming. And, you know, Tay and company here, they really have come to play. They haven't had maybe the showing that they were expecting, but these are guys who put in the work every single week and want to continue to improve their game, not only individually, but as a team.
It's been a really inspiring thing to see in our intermediate division. That team play that you talked about got them all the way to 4th in the regular season. And with high ground advantage now, an excellent position in rings that do close into this little avalanche ravine. SCC should be able to translate their hard work into results in our first game. For the moment, it is a waiting game, and it is a defense-centered one as well. A lot of other squads should be looking at this high ground and pining away for it. As long as SCC can maintain presence around all of the 360 degrees they have to cover, they should be all right.
They should be all right for sure, and they're not unfamiliar with this location. I can tell you that for sure. When we were running scrims early on in this tournament, this was a position that I actually saw SCC in a couple different times. Of course, at those times they had a Watson, which kind of makes things, it's a bit of a different story than the current comp that they have now. You see, they're not sticking their heads out as much, they're not poking for as much information, instead just trying to secure the position.
In a meta of Valkyries, I think that's going to be the big determining factor here. Will there be a Valk squad that pushes SCC? If so, they've already given up the high ground to avoid taking a lot of that damage and to conserve resources. With teams like Beyond Borealis sitting right next door in Overlook and waiting for their opportunity to pounce, SCC have got to play very carefully because just one squad can come in and mess all of this up, sending us into a cascade of teams just rushing this high ground rock.
Yeah, I mean, but SCC's doing a good job. They're looking around. They know that this team is down here featuring the Little Optimist, one of the streamers in this event who's really been putting on a good show on his stream. Make sure you guys go check out everybody who's been streaming this event regularly. It's always good to support fellow creators and fellow competitors in that regard. And they know that's a player we've seen. I think out of the corner of his eye there, Ramen might have spotted the team going up in the air. Yep, there's a Valkyrie team. Don't think that they're coming for this position, but they're at least considering the reposition at this point. Getting some damage down with the charge rifle is Ramen, continuing to try to upgrade himself a little bit there with that damage. They have the Wraith Portal option, so I mean, it's not dire straits right now for SCC by any means.
It's a really smart and proactive move, though, to lay down this portal. They get themselves a little closer into Overlook, and where a lot of teams have been predicting that we're going into the ravine, now everybody's got the opportunity on SCC to make the first move into Overlook without using something like the Valkyrie that opens you up to being shot out of the sky. Instead, that Wraith Portal makes your rotation a lot safer, something that RHHS were certainly looking for. A Skynade thrown out by Doja Dog may very well find an initial knock. Right now, it is a game of defense, and one where RHHS are very open. Their backs are not safe right now.
Yeah, we're seeing Valk ults kind of going off across the map right now as teams look to reposition, and RHHS in a good position to get some damage off, but you gotta wonder, are they going to be able to do much more than that? They're doing some damage, but you see how far away all these players are. As soon as they feel the heat of the battle that RHHS is bringing to them, they seem to be able to get out of there, so it's going to be interesting to see how they play this. Zilla very low in health, looking to almost be third-partied here by RHHS. He does manage to get the shield battery off and will survive this current engagement. Again, another Valk ult going off, and yeah, they're definitely not subtle about using their Valkyries here to get these repositions. This is where it's all going to start to go down, I think.
Yeah, there should be many. As you say, in comes another. RHHS going to watch this happen. A barrage of squads are trying to make their way out of Epicenter right now, and there are limited ways in which you can reposition if you don't have a Valkyrie. We're seeing a lot of people crowd into the bridge, but even RHHS is feeling a lot of pressure right now. As nice shots with the Hemlock again from Doja Dog, and another nade continue to keep the entire team safe. Watch out for how they use that Catalyst wall defensively or offensively, because it'll say a lot about RHHS's position.
Couple downs going down in that fight behind them on this hill currently. Checking this direction, sees the beam of a charge rifle and decides, yeah, I'll put my back to that rock. They're still got a team pinned down here, RHHS, and again, sort of just a middle point towards all these teams. They can almost see all the action from here, but you know, we've alluded to it before. Again, not a lot of cover, so I'm interested to see if they overextend on even one of these fights. Are they going to be punished for it?
Continued to predict the zone really well for RHHS. They haven't been punished a lot by teams that are sitting around the periphery. But so far, I mean, finding yourself in the highest of high grounds during this next zone, as long as you can survive the next 2 minutes, the next zone close that'll bring us into round number 4, RHHS have Godspot unquestionably. The meds are running low, however, and with teams continuing to pressure them, it's a matter of whether they can survive this war of attrition.
Oh, and it's going to be a war, too. It might only be 2 minutes, but between Circle 3 and 4 in a lobby this skilled, that's going to be a long 2 minutes, Dia.
I don't envy RHHS. I'm glad they have the Catalyst, and I almost wish that they had something like a Gibraltar or a Watson to help them out here as well. The more defensive legends would really benefit a squad like this. Another Valgold, I can hear it going off from the south. See where they end up landing, as Washed and Sloshed actually are going to have to be one of our teams to rotate in as well. They've continued looking for fights, and yet haven't found any just yet, are now going to have to take 2 consecutive ones if they want to make their way into this zone safely. But they're starting it off right, just doing what they can on foot, knowing they've got that Wraith portal available. No new castle wall to work with just yet, and Prezi might go down here. He's out in the open, pops that mobile shield just in time, but Frapper's not looking too good either, and nades are continuing to pressure this squad. Nice pressure from 8 Second Gaming, lets his teammates reset as the defensive catalyst wall comes out on the other side. Tecto Elite and Ape Escape go down, and this is the next round close. This is what it means when Apex Legends starts to get hot and heavy, and teams don't have the luxury of waiting around for the rotation anymore. 8 Second gonna pop that Bloodhound ult, get the additional speed, and just barely make his way behind these rocks, giving Washed and Sloshed extra few precious seconds before this catalyst wall drops.
Putting some shots into the wall here. 8 Second Gaming knows exactly where these players are, and they're going to line right up for him. Good shots there. It is an absolute bloodbath here, doing as much damage as he can. It's 8 Second Gaming. Frapper falls, but there's 3 opponents in front of him. Washed and Sloshed falls. So does Blue Dream and Balance, all in the matter of seconds.
And who are the winners? Who are the winners of this engagement, Crackshot? It's RHHS, who have sat up on this high ground and planned the rotation, kept squads at bay for the past couple minutes, and now finally see that hard work pay off. They have that high ground. They have the god spot of this zone, and with all of the loot that they just inherited, they don't have med problems anymore. They don't have shield problems or ammo problems anymore. Now, their only worry is making their way into the next zone, and even that path should be clear.
There's a lot of cover between them and the next zone, and I know we talked about how much of a dangerous position this could be for them. You know, we were a little worried. Maybe we shouldn't have been. Beyond Borealis is going to bite the dust. Their little Optimist finishing off the final kill. There are 8 squads left, currently still in the zone. Still a lot of bullets being fired off. SCC has lost 1 member in the fray, and that's Ramen Maid. So Tay and Zyphon are going to try to see what they can do to continue to survive, continue to build those placement points. Again, marathon, not a sprint tonight, and they're in a pretty tough position though. Not a lot of cover for them. I mean, on top of the hill, you've got RHHS that can overlook almost every spot on the map. Not only that, they don't have a lot of cover themselves. You can see BFG, they see RHHS, they see them on top of that hill, but what are they going to do from here? Even firing shots at them is really just it's going to hurt you more than it's going to help you, because it's going to draw their attention towards you in a power position.
Yeah, BFG have to make use of the fact that they are one of our few teams running Bangalore. The more cover that Bangalore is able to put out, the longer BFG can survive, even in a lobby like this with everyone looking at you. Those smokes are going to make a serious difference, but they know where their biggest problem is. It's the squad that is just now exiting No Name Village, and they've got scans on scans. They're not even the only ones looking. Saiyan Boka, the last one left standing, and Sherby squad get eliminated just like that. Into the sky goes Waterfalls, but a quick rotation in has let BFG Esports stay in this, if barely in the ring.
Dojo Bear, the really smart play there. I mean, you got a lot of targets on your screen, but in the underpass there, the only real saving grace of that position was that Watson tower, and knocking that down, being the first target, is huge. SCC is going to be facing some problems here. RHHS as well. BFG trying to do a ton of damage if they can right now. It's really hard to tell what's going on. There's a lot going on in a very small position here, but it does look like BFG is going to continue to reap the benefits of the position they were in prior.
RHHS have gone down, though. The rotation in from the height didn't work out as we expected, and as a result, we've got a bunch of squads in here that were playing off the low ground the whole time that are ready to scrap and take it to each other. BFG, certainly one of those, sitting on the outside of this RV, don't have a lot of cover, but the Bangalore smokes, as we alluded to earlier, buy them crucial time. No big heals for Waterfall, and we're coming to a crucial point in BFG Esports' journey. They need these kills because they need the meds they'll find in the death boxes. If not, it's another RHHS War of Attrition situation.
If they even have time to use them, that's the question. I mean, they're kind of just dancing around out behind here. Camel Razor putting some shots in on BFG, but the Bangalore smokes once again going to just add another variable of ambiguity surrounding where this team could be. And that's huge, because at this point in the game, some more damage out from Dojo Bear. Any kind of advantage that you can buy yourself is going to be huge. More damage coming in from Dojo Bear. He's really laying it down with that R99 right now.
BFG Esports gonna have to take the fight now, but up on the high ground, we've got another squad looking at them. Not bad for 20 an hour, is able to fry along the side of this RV, and again, the smoke buys BFG a little bit of time. This time, certainly not going to be enough as kills start to just fall into the hands of Not Bad for 20 an hour. Quick shield swap for Maple will buy him a second, but not much longer as BFG bite the dust and Olympus Enjoyers are forced to exit the RV. No way out of here with a squad mate down, and still Not Bad for 20 an hour able to look down on them. Two separate squads, one in the train line, one on top of it, are slowly taking out our Olympus Enjoyers, leaving Not Bad for 20 an hour as the squad with high ground, the ones in control of this game, and with the smokes to block any sightlines in. They don't have any digi threats right now, though, and Camel is doing his best to take down Rapid, trying to finish things off for the top three and finally make it a top two for them. Rapid just needs to hang on for a little while longer, but Camel eats shots from the side, and all of a sudden, Not Bad for 20 an hour is down to one member. They end up going out first, and Vitamin A pick up the win from underneath.
They come out from that underpass at the perfect moment. They shut down the players on top of them, and that's a huge win for Vitamin A to kick off the intermediate finals here at TELUS Esports Series 2.
What a perfect swing from Vitamin A out from underneath. You would have thought they had it in control the whole time, but it didn't look like that going into the final circle. High ground was extraordinarily deceptive there.
It was extraordinarily deceptive. I mean, our HHS, they fought the initial fight that sort of started the dominoes that was that end game, as hectic as it was. That was really what started it. They were in a great position. They fall. SEC falls. In all of that chaos, some of the top talent in the lobby falls alongside them, and you've got teams like Olympus Enjoyers, Not Bad for 20 an hour. These guys were in the bottom part of that leaderboard. They're the ones who squeaked into the finals and really had to fight for their position. And in the first game of the day, we're seeing, you know, maybe not a top slugger in the division win, and that's what makes this format exciting. Is now 11 points, 9 points for these guys plus the placement points. They're in a great position to be able to push further in this match point format, get themselves closer to that 40-point threshold, and Vitamin A really starting things off right. I did not love how little cover they had in that underpass position, but they seem to have gone so unnoticed by all the other teams. All they had to do was really get 1 or 2 kills at the end, and it's theirs.
Yeah, it was such a fascinating way to make their way into the end game, and that it's them innovating where other teams are not. I mean, we've got some Ramparts, some Bangalores, but we don't have a single other team running Loba in the lobby, and Vitamin A abused the strengths of that legend to make sure that their shields were topped up, to make the best out of their Watson, and I can't help but walk away from that first game really impressed with what the intermediate division has become over the past 4 weeks. And I got good news for all of you at home. Despite the fact that Vitamin A have made their way over halfway to match point, the games are far from over. We've got plenty more for you, and we'll be right back with Game 2 of the TELUS Esports Series in just a few minutes. terrifying, especially when you get it going, and probably about as relaxing as this. This is a nice moment of peace in what is otherwise a terrifying VR to play. We got the jacuzzi going, and in this sense, with the squad right next door to you. But out goes the Arcstar. The truth is broken. Big crack for Schist, who takes down Mr. Blitz. This is our duo from earlier. That means 1-octane's on the floor, and 1-octane will be no more.
Where's he at? Where's he at?
On the other side. Wait here. Crack, knock one, knock one. We win, let's go!
Okay, blood now. 33.
I'm shielding.
Cracked one.
Coming closer. Scanning now.
Crack.
Drop
Crack
one.
one. Crack. Drop one. Yeah.
Knocked two.
No.
Cracked him. Got him.
Nice.
I'm tethered. I can't. You're so I just punched into the ring, bro. They're both inside! I'm going on this!
My fence hit one.
On the roof with me!
Knocked her. Wait, he's coming up. Last one.
On me, I'm down. That's right. On the roof.
50 on her. I'm pushing.
I clicked the charge, I couldn't get it.
Jeez.
He's got a knock over here. Got another knock on it. Playing in his knock. 140 off him, Aaron. Got him all. Let's go. Get inside.
Keep going. Back door. 64 catalyst. We have to push on, I think. Push him. No. Keep going. Peeking. Back door. 64 catalyst. We have to push on, I think. Push him. Down. Down two. Crazy damage. I'm batting. Last one here, please. All dead.
The TELUS Esports Series 2 continues right here, right now, with even more Apex Legends. We've just kicked off Game 1 of our Intermediate Division Finals, and Crackshot, we're about to jump into Game 2. And before we do, I want to tell all of you at home that this is the first event of many of its kind. We're crossing our fingers here, and I want you guys to be involved in the conversation and create the esports scene here in Canada that you want to. The best way to do that is by getting yourselves involved in our Discord and in the esports community that we are building here with TELUS. So go ahead. I know that some of you are going to be watching this on TV. If you want to go ahead and check out the DSA group on Twitter, you'll be able to use that link to join our Discord. And of course, if you're watching on Twitch, it should be just one click away.
Absolutely. Super excited for everybody to come be a part of that conversation again. It's a for Canadians by Canadians esports series that TELUS is helping us put on here, and super thankful to be a part of it. A lot of people who've been a part of this, very early editions of TELUS Esports Series are still sticking around and part of the community. It's really awesome to see.
Yeah, the goal, you know, if you're watching this and you're going, man, I love Apex. I want to play a little bit of, I don't know, my own game. There are so many out there. I could really name any one. Submit it to us because we would love to get even more things like this going. Now, as Game 2 approaches, I'm going to bring it back to Apex Legends. I'm going to bring it back to the Intermediate Division because we are coming off the back of a Vitamin A win, a zone prediction, zone-heavy team with a defensive composition of Loba and Watson, helping them buff up those fences and get as many meds and shields as they can going into the end game. Managed to win it all this time. We're going to keep our eyes on teams that rotate and try and play zone like RHHS to see if this is something that's going to be replicated in the Intermediate Division. Is zone the way to go, or is it just a Game 1 fluke?
I mean, that's the question, right? The position that they had themselves in, that was a zone prediction and a half for that tunnel not to become exposed, because, I mean, the zone pushes them out of the tunnel where they were so well set up with that Watson, with that Loba. I mean, that's end game for them, right? Like, somebody's going to spot them running out of there, but luckily they didn't have to. So, you know, the beauty of Match Point is we're going to see a lot of different end games tonight, a lot of different situations unfold in front of us. This is our second of 3 World's Edge maps tonight, so we'll see what kind of zone we get this time around, if there's going to be any early altercations. I saw some teams going to maybe a few different spots, and again, another thing I want to mention, there's definitely going to be some adjustment going on throughout the evening, for sure, but between some teams, you know, something's not working, maybe they want to go back to something a little more familiar. That's kind of, you know, a good way that they can do it. Doors getting blown off here. Blue Dream does seem to be running the duo tonight, and that is okay. I mean, we did allow duos, as this is a finals part of the event, and per LGS guidelines, duos are allowed to play at this sort of stage in an event.
Blue Dream maybe technically allowed to play. They're not going to be by the team outside. Is really just hemmed in with their own thermite even. Tart FPS going to take quite a bit of damage and now finds Watson fences on the high ground. It's an easy swing from 40-42. And Beyond Borealis do lose 1, but pick up the first squad wipe of Game 2.
And that's a huge confidence booster. I mean, it is a squad of 2 to fall as the first one. And unfortunate situation for that team, of course. But that's, you know, those are kills that you're going to take all day in a you know, what could be a marathon of an evening of gaming.
Now, Vitamin A, we talked about them a little bit before. Harvester game plan, or rather, zone game plan, of course. Harvester as a POI, where they are right now, going to be really instrumental in that. This landing spot wasn't picked by accident. When you're going to Lava Siphon, Fragment, Harvester, even Landslide, and sometimes Countdown, you've got opportunity to rotate really early when other teams do not, because of your more central position on the map. Vitamin A do not have that next zone read yet, but should be able to read zone 1 and sort of predict where this is going, while hoping that they can use the Watson to get a full information zone scan later.
That's a good composition from them, but again, yeah, you're right, it is a little bit more, I think, end game heavy compared to some of the other compositions that we've seen tonight. You know, of course, one that we saw that we'd like to highlight, and we highlighted last time, Washington Slosh, they went with something that was very I guess aggressive. It wasn't typical, but it was built to be aggressive, and they did get a chance to be aggressive. Didn't go their way, but we'll see what they do this time around, as it looks like Frapper has dropped Lexi immediately in this engagement, which could cause the rest of them to push. Yep, that's 8-Second Gaming finding one as well. Should be 1 member left for them to be picking up their first wipe, and that's the Sherby squad as the second team to fall.
And it's just as fast as that, like dominoes falling. It's how quickly your game can get out of control. Beyond Borealis, lucky, honestly, that they landed next to a 2-man to be able to keep things mostly in their favor. But as soon as one drops, it's got to be traded back. Otherwise, you can see teams losing control of the game and their own lives very, very quickly. Now, as this ring does continue to close up, we'll see some teams that have been able to pick up the next zone raid. It does look, however, like we're going to be going into the landslide area as a great place to play out of, including that surrounding western side along the train line, and with a bit of countdown involved. If you are a team that wants to hold zone, wants to sit in a building and lock it down, those are the places to be.
Absolutely. There's a few good power positions that you can get into pretty early, and we see a lot of arrows. You see them running in tandem into certain directions on the map right now because they want to get those positions early. They want to make sure that they're set up and ready when other teams start to flood in, and they also want to make sure that they get to pick the spot that they're in rather than letting the gameplay dictate the spot that they have to play. We saw that work out not so great for some teams in the previous match here. So learning from that, Teletubbies unfortunately not going to be able to continue participating in game 2 as they fall. 17 squads left on the map, and a little bit more aggressive, I think, this time around. Some more damage, some more early fights compared to last game.
Yeah, teams have definitely noticed that with the teams that won last game, kills are going to mean a lot. If you aren't able to guarantee your entry into the zone late game, as Olympus enjoyers unfortunately were not, your goal is now to pick up as many kills and thus points as you can before you eventually go down. Washed and sloshed, that was their game plan from the beginning, and they've made a notable choice here, switching from the Newcastle to the Gibraltar. A little bit less staying power for a much more effective reset button. Gibraltar's dome, as it's thrown down, cannot be destroyed, where all of Newcastle's abilities can, but as a result, Gibraltar's bubble also has a lot lower uptime.
SCC maybe rethinking this engagement, not really wanting to push in and getting far away from that Bangalore ult that was dropped on them, and instead are going to be just hanging out here. Ramen Maid and Tay were already held up in this position. Zyphon says, okay, I'll come join my team. But I mean, with the Wraith, it's, you know, I like to think of it a lot like a Team Fortress 2 scout for any of our elder gamers out there. They'll know what I mean. It's a lot of poke and prod and being able to escape in sly ways with Wraith, especially in a competitive sense. It's not as, you know, in public lobbies you're seeing crazy Wraith plays. You know, this is a legend that you can choose to run in, gain some kind of information or gain some kind of damage early, and then, you know, as quickly as you're in, you're out of there, regrouping with your team and then deciding what you want to do. So I mean, Wraith as an information agent definitely could suit SCC well here.
And everybody who has a friend who insta-locks Wraith knows that there's a lot of style potential on this legend. When you lock in Wraith, you do want to be looking for those big plays, the angles that no one else is taking because they don't have those couple seconds of invulnerability to get back to their team. And it's what defines Wraith as a legend, has since the beginning of Apex Legends, and what I imagine will continue to in our intermediate finals. Vitamin A, however, defined already by their tendency towards zone, have doubled down on this, being one of our teams to again make that early rotation out of Harvester, put themselves in countdown with 1,000,000 Watson fences around a charge rifle, and at this point, they're not playing Apex Legends. They are playing Evo Shield Farming Simulator until the final zone.
Absolutely. I mean, they don't really have any reason to move, right? They've built up a crazy great base here. If this was a survival game, they'd be doing quite well. And at this point, it looks like Li Wang's trying to make this a point-and-click adventure, not going to get the better of that engagement, and instead decides just to kind of hang out. But of course, with the utility that they have around them, it's going to be a lot easier for them to continue to poke in these fights, gain their shields back, and not really be on the back foot or have to spend resources the same way other teams are going to have to.
Ape Escape look like they're about to expend a pretty big resource here. Author is grouping up with the squad for what is going to be a risky rotation, but one that could put them in a god spot. Valkyl still available for them, but right underneath the Raven that's cawing at the sky right now. An often really excellent place to be in end zones. If Ape Escape have predicted this right, it's a top 5 finish, almost guaranteed. They've just got to play things slow and measured to actually be able to make this pay off.
Right, they're not going to make a lot of noise coming in from this direction either. You know, I think subtlety is something that is going to be a bit underrated in a lobby like this one. We see how many times last game did we see a Valkyl send a team into the sky for the entire lobby to see? You know, subtlety is going to be huge in the way that teams move around the map and get into positions, because all it takes is one team sort of miscalculating where you might be, and all of a sudden you know, their game is over and you've got some easy kill points or the easy start to a fight that you're looking for. So this position is so huge from them. They just have to make sure they don't get dropped on here. And I think with the information that they have, they're quite aware of this, and it does look like that's how they're going to play this. They're going to take that sort of guaranteed finish as long as no one decides to randomly rotate that direction. From the looks of it, I don't think anybody's going to. This fight here between all of these teams in these different little capsules all around the area are, it's just probably going to continue to last, right? No team's really got a reason to get out of here, but everybody's got their eyes on each other at the same time.
It's a promise of soon. And when we look at zones like this in Apex Legends, everybody's got their own idea of where it's pulling, and with 16 squads, you can absolutely all coexist peacefully around the map. It's when the map gets smaller, and when it starts to pull to unexpected locations, that things really become a lot more complicated. Vitamin A, for example, have predicted that this pulls into the northwestern side of Countdown. Should it not, their relocation is going to be one fraught with peril, and the same can be said for Dojo Bear all the way out in Landslide right now as they stare down the barrels at each other. Author King Jr., however, picking up a knock over by the Ravens. It was a squad that we mentioned earlier had made their rotation into what they believe to be the next zone, and with 30 seconds left on this zone close, once that hits, everybody knows where we're going next, and we are going to see a mad scramble for positioning.
And that mad scramble is where teams are going to sink or swim, quite literally. It's going to be moments where you have to stay composed while there could be a lot of pressure on you at any given moment. It does look like Tecto is quite aware of this team being forced to rotate in their direction, and Flex with quite a spot here. Not sure how you calculate for this if you're a team rotating in, and he's able to just continue to get damaged. Happy comes in, helps out Flex.
No one's looking at him.
Why would you? Well, you've got no reason to look in that direction. And that's an easy cleanup for Tecto on the Boa Boys.
Really, easy doesn't even begin to describe it. The way that Tecto Elite set that up, Boa Boys had no choice but to walk into them. It's a really unfortunate way to go out as the zone forces you together. But it's as that zone closes, and as we talked about before, Crackshot, it's changed the fate of the game for a lot of squads. Those that sat in Skyhook, still pretty happy right now. Teams that sat anywhere further south of Countdown, not nearly so much. And Vitamin A, as you can imagine, perfectly content. Their zone prediction, once again, proving to be really on point.
Yeah, they're doing really well with that, and again, they have the comp to sort of play this style of game. And of course, with winning that first game, as well as picking up those 11 kill points, they're in such a great position that all they need to do is stay consistent until they get to that match point, and then it looks like they've already got the style of game you want to be playing down.
We've got another big zone team rotating in, however. That Valk ult that we're seeing, that we're trying to take shots at, means that we've got, what is it, Not Bad for 20 an hour making their way into the zone. They're actually able to do so pretty easily, not getting hit with a lot of shots, playing almost directly underneath the Raven themselves. If that's where we're predicting the zone will go, I think there are no better squads to look out for than people like Not Bad for 20 an hour, like RHHS, and like Vitamin A.
Yeah, teams coming in on the edge here, you've got to be kind of concerned a little bit about, but let's see, Flex is now kind of rotating in. Zyphon's getting some information as well for their teams. And again, these Watson fences are going to prove so strong in these positions. Beyond Borealis seems to be taking note that hunkering down and doing some damage is probably what they can do the best in this position. They are on the edge, but there's still a lot of time. Again, you know, we mentioned last game, 2 minutes is a long time for RHHS to sit down and try to hold down a power position. Well, when you're in this kind of position where you're just sort of turtled in a building and you've got tons of cover to work with, potentially tons of materials to work with around you, you know, that time can actually work the other way. It can work quickly, and you might not realize how quickly you need to get out of these positions, or the way that you really want to do that the most tactically that you can. You might end up not being able to get the rotation that you want if you stick around too long. So that's what I'm going to be looking for in these teams that are hunkered down in the buildings here in the city.
I love this adaptation. RHHS, I remember, guys, last game we looked at them up on height. They had this catalyst, it was doing really well, and I said, I just would feel better if they had a caustic or a Watson or something. They've swapped it up. Out comes the caustic, and they're picking up the strats, and I think it's, you know, it's kind of scary to know that these teams are adapting in such a way. It will mean that this squad does have to adapt pretty quickly, as a Valk still available for teams like RHHS, but with Caustic, you've got a lot of staying power. If you make that rotation early, you're going to be able to lock down an area a lot quicker than other squads. Unfortunately, Crimson Lotus already have the prime position locked down. We talked about this earlier. Underneath the Raven is incredible. It's exactly where Crimson Lotus find themselves, but with teams that can still jump on them from the high ground, they've got to watch their backs.
They've got to be careful that no one drops, and it looks like they're quite aware that that's the reality. I mean, Crimson Lotus is a seasoned team. They were a top team, a favorite, if you will, coming into today to try to take this one and take the championship here in the intermediate division. They're quite aware positionally of where teams could be. Of course, a team dropping on them too early, you don't want to do that. So they're not necessarily stuck between a rock and a hard place, but it could become the reality of their situation quickly if they're not careful.
Team 7 playing this slow but sure. Searled on the low ground forces a response on height as Team 7 keep themselves from being pushed, but isn't that aggressive move that you would have liked from a squad that is clearly sharing real estate and is going to have to move very soon. Both these teams now down a defensive and offensive cooldown. The Seer ult can swing fights, and in this case it's being used for nothing but posturing. Team 7 trying to make their way a little further into the zone, get some mileage out of this, but it's just Josiah playing on the outside of the fence line.
He's looking out and trying to see if he can spot anything, or at least maybe try to carve a path forward for his team, but there's lots of damage coming in
swing!
now. Oh,
Never
snap.
see the Seer flank. That is not something that I'm used to. Doja Dog getting broken shields on the inside means Team 7 get to rotate past, but look, we got a peek out on the outside as well as Team 7 eat that third-party damage and now have their backs exposed yet again. As the zone starts to close, it's the go button for everyone, and Team 7 is getting shot in the back. They turn around, and Josiah Fries eliminating RHHS, but likely going down themselves. Ape Escape now thinking of jumping down onto the low ground as they can't sustain too much more time in the red. Down they go. Author King leading the charge on this Bangalore, as Not Bad for 20 an hour end up leaving us in game number 2. We're down to the top 10 squads.
Top 10, and they're getting a ton of damage down on here onto Crimson Lotus. Ape Escape doing a ton of damage. ACC taking some now, but they're receiving some back as well. Not down without a fight is Crimson Lotus. An ult dropped on them in this position, just slinging some nades, seeing what they can get before pushing out of these smokes. And it does look like Zilla's going to be the first to fall. That's the advantage here for Ape Escape in the fight. Looking to see if they can find Doja. Oh my, I think there's a third team here, Dia.
But Ape Escape have this little bit of smoke. They've got just enough safety to play with, and Chosen Sky is resetting for the moment as Crimson Lotus re-enter the fight. If they do so quick enough, things could change, but we've got a big bully going down in this quarter. Chosen Sky living with 1 HP as AAC watches this happen and should let the reset go down as well. Knockdown shield aplenty for Chosen Sky, but you've got almost no HP on this Valkyrie. Do they know? AAC waiting on the scan, waiting on the interrupt on the heal from this Seer as out go the missiles, and Chosen Sky has to fight now. There's no more knockdown shield to play with, and AAC knows that it's just a few bullets, and just like that, Beyond Borealis bite the dust.
And that is the veteran type of play that you're going to see from Crimson Lotus. They are poised in that situation. You've got both your teammates are gone in that situation for AAC. He's got a player who's just dancing behind a shield. I mean, it's going to be a tough ask to get out of this now, but to be securing kill points in that manner before going down as Crimson Lotus, hats off to AAC there for how they played that.
Desania as a duo take out the last member of Crimson Lotus as well, but look at the loot that they have got, and look at what's just landed next to them. That's a free meal. ADXT gets out of there just in time, but that's one player that's going to be trying to survive on their own into this final ring, and Vitamin A have got the perfect angle on it. Catalyst Wall separating them for now. Doesn't mean they've got to play a little bit conservatively, but Tecto Elite have just bitten the dust, and it's a big swing onto SCC that opens things up for Vitamin A. Liwag having to jump down onto the low ground, pick up that Loba shield bat, and now make their way into the zone with the Catalyst Wall again thrown out. ADXT gonna get swung on by this full 3-person squad, unable to find the knock, and instantly gets eliminated. Team 7 taken down in 4th place, and Vitamin A down a member as a result.
SCC being able to come out of this alive and near full health as a squad, I think is sort of the saving grace for them here, because that could have gone very wrong very fast for them. And instead, Tay and Zyphon are going to be able to get the most done that they can here to stay alive. It does look like Vitamin A is still aware of that team playing in the valley between. Oh, the drones in. Oh, SCC swinging them wide. Not sure they realize they're this is the widest swing ever. They've got to fight 2 teams in doing so, but they're getting the damage done. Vitamin A are champions from last game down. SCC makes sure of it, but there's a ton of pressure on this position now, Dia.
And there's no shield swap for Tay. He's got to hit the bat. What they don't know and what they're just now finding out is that Dasani are only a 2-person team. They've got an angle right now with the extra time that this reset has cost you on the low ground. But here, with this Nemesis, almost manages to find a fry, and with the car does turn it around. Full thirst into a shield swap is what they need, but it doesn't happen in time. Leaving Spatsu in a 1 versus 2 that they cannot win. SCC take game 2.
Hats off, Saints Gaming. That was a huge play there from Tay to stay alive in that position. Ramen, once again, known for being the one to go make the space on his team. And this is huge from St. Clair College here.
Yeah, St. Clair really demonstrating a fundamental understanding of their momentum in the end game. That wide swing that we talked about is something that nobody goes for. But the problem is, Crackshot, that you've still got to defend against it, and you let your guard down for 1 second, as we saw Vitamin A do, and all of a sudden, you're removed from the lobby. You're watching from the gray screen and waiting for game 3.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot going on there. I mean, we knew that valley right there was going to be, you know, a huge point of contesting at the end game, and we knew that it was going to guarantee a team early on to finish in a good position, and they did so. But teams like Crimson Lotus swinging in there, ADXT making his presence known, just dropping in for some fun to see if he could get something done there, and ends up getting sandwiched between 3 top teams. I mean, SCC doing a great job here. Another 11-point first place performance for one of our teams in this, and I'm interested to see how the leaderboard is shaking out. We'll make sure to get you guys an updated version of that as soon as we can, so we can see exactly how these teams are looking heading into our 3rd game of the night. But for now, we are going to send you guys to break while we get these players a chance to mellow out for a second, get a drink, and get ready for our 3rd World's Edge game.
My name is V Roses.
My name is Tay.
My name is Matt, otherwise known as Zilla.
Actually, my coworker who inspired me to get into Apex. Currently, I'm a competitive Apex player for the St. Clair Saints at St. Clair College. I played Apex casually since Season 7 for a couple of seasons, and I peaked Masters twice, and I didn't really think about it until when I moved here and I found SCC.
What started me in my journey as a content creator was my competitive side. I used to play soccer, so you just get this rush, and you're like, oh, I want to be part of something bigger or like better, see where it could take me, you never know.
Probably about a year ago, I was just playing games for fun since I was 11 or 12 back on console. When I got my computer, it just opened up a bunch of new possibilities, and I had a lot of friends throughout Winnipeg that were associated with like Lotus 8. They needed somebody to play Apex, and that was the game that I was spending most of my time on.
My advice to aspiring competitors would be to put yourself out there. I know us gamers were pretty introverted, but networking and showcasing your skills online really helps, especially when it comes to getting recognition and putting your name out there.
Honestly, just be yourself and being consistent. I feel like consistency is like one of the biggest things because people like seeing consistency. For competitors, muscle memory, like sometimes before I go to bed, I go in the firing range and I practice so I can keep the muscle memory of like the patterns of the guns, the recoil patterns.
My advice for aspiring competitors would be to follow your dreams. Anybody can do any of this pro player stuff. Anybody can be anyone they want to be. Practice a lot. Find a good group of people who are willing to do that with you and have mutual goals.
World's Edge.
World's Edge.
World's Edge. That's it. I'm a Wraith main. I love World's Edge. I love my buildings.
World's Edge.
World's Edge, of course. I'm a Caustic main.
R301.
The flatline does so much damage. The hip fire is insane. Now it's 10 times better than the R301. Definitely the flatline.
R3.
Flatline.
R301 every day of the week.
Oh, 100% the card.
Volt.
That's tough.
Car.
Car.
I'm gonna have to go with the Volt. 3x on the 301, the Hemlock, or the Charge Rifle.
2x Bruiser.
2 times Bruiser.
2 times HCOG.
The 2 to 4 is insane. It used to be the 3 times, but now it's a 2 to 4.
I like the Assault class.
Assault.
Oh, Wraith. Oh, my baby girl, she got a buff, and the animations with her hands look so good. I was like, oh my god, they spoiled her. I was so happy.
I'd definitely say Controller is my favorite, mainly because I am a Caustic main.
Probably the controller. I'm more of a zone type player as well as an anchor, so control would be great for me.
It's time for the TELUS Esports Series featuring Apex Legends to continue. I'm still Dia, and I've still got Crackshot. It's been a while, so I wanted to make sure you remembered us before we jumped into what is now going to be our third game. And Crackshot, interestingly enough, our last on World's Edge.
This is our last on World's Edge before we're going to head over to Storm Point. And interestingly enough, we've got a couple teams already approaching that 40-point match point threshold that is set for the intermediate finals today. So a couple teams being that St. Clair College, SCC with the big win there. Both of our teams that have won the first game and secured a number of kill points heading into that have a chance to set themselves up for what could be an end game on Storm Point that they might be looking for.
Yeah, I'm getting very excited at how these teams are playing on the first map, and it's really nice to know that going into this game, nobody can actually find the win on World's Edge. We will be hitting those two maps, and let's talk a little bit about that, because we know on the back end that we've got both Vitamin A and SCC at 34 points right now. You need 40 points to be match point eligible, but as an important clarifying point, if you become match point eligible during the course of a game, you cannot win in that same game.
You have to win the next game. That's right, Diaz. So if either of those teams manage to pass, or, on placement points alone, that's what you can consider when you get into these kind of positions is, placement points are going to be huge for those two teams. So are we going to see a different sort of style in both games? In the previous games, the first game, SCC went down rather early with not a ton of kill points. Same thing just happened to Vitamin A in that last game. So a lot of things can still happen here. Even if they do make it to that match point threshold, then we are going to be able to see a situation where Vitamin A or SCC trying to take this one. It could be possible on the next map, but we may see another team. The way things have gone tonight, it's quite likely that we see another team catapult themselves into that conversation.
It really is. I mean, not bad for 20 an hour. They've been around in the end games really frequently, and while their kill points may not be as high, darn, they still could very well be just one game off of match point themselves, depending on how good that game actually is. We are starting off, however, with that classic Vitamin A beginning over here at Harvester. They're looking for the scan. They've actually got both beacons this time, so they should be able to pick up the second zone read before vacating Harvester, and they're likely to do that in around the next 30 seconds. You finish up using this crafter, and as an early rotating squad, you get the heck out of Dodge.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you kind of got to do, right? You get what you came for, and then you decide, hey, let's try and survive, especially it's Vitamin A. We've talked about the situation that they're in here.
It's just trying to keep yourself alive for as long as possible. Let's tell the Tubbies, unfortunately, weren't able to succeed in that endeavor. They go down in 19th place, and it's been a tough day for them, often getting caught out on these early game rotations. There's quite a bit of firepower in the intermediate finals, and the finals are the top 20 squads that we've had throughout the course of this entire TELUS Esports Series, and competition is really tough, perhaps a lot tougher than many of our squads were ready for.
Looks like here we've got some teams playing on the edge of the circle, not a ton of early engagement. Teams have seemed to figure out what they want to do here on World's Edge just before we switch over to Storm Point. So really trying to secure those points here and make sure that they have the game that they want to have and that they're set up to do so with some early loot.
Only a few places that this zone can go. SCC actually pretty close by to an ideal position to play from in this game. They may not have the best loot so far, as they are just now sitting on blue shields, with Zyphon still waiting to maybe craft theirs up and get to a little bit more beefy of a standpoint. But being able to play the high ground right outside of Epicenter, overlooking Fragment, will be really powerful here, and you've got early rotate options afforded to you by being able to walk into places like Survey Camp. SCC are another one of our squads that will have that second zone read as well, so they know just as much as we do that their position is one they can play out of pretty easily, but RHHS unfortunately have that information as well and have started to throw down the harass.
Getting some good damage off early. RHHS, we've seen them have success from the power positions. This early charge rifle, I mean, this is eating shields up right now, and realizing from Kansei here that not too much else to be done. Going to rotate with this team and continue to move across this bridge.
Yeah, I'd prioritize places like Survey Camp, maybe this Macaroni Building if you really want to stick around as RHHS. They don't have Zone 2 read, so playing with less information than some of the other squads that we've looked at so far, they'll be playing also a lot more conservatively and around the edge. They've got the benefit of being able to use the Valkyrie later on and even the Seer Beacon scan to know where there are safe places to land. And as a result, I'm not too concerned about what I would largely consider to be a team that likes to play out of the center of the ring. They've actually got one of the better shots at being able to make it in pretty smoothly. They're actually going to be able to get that zone scan now, as I say this, popping in and seeing where everybody is with the Seer. Call him Seer for a reason.
You get to see, and that is what's the beautiful thing about Seer. And you know, this is a legend that I play myself a lot, so I got a lot of love for Seers out there. I know not everybody loves to play against him, but maybe that's why he's so good. You know, you get a ton of information. It's really a you know, a legend that can set you up in fights to have a big advantage in getting that first damage down. Very huge to be able to know how you want to play it, even if it's just micro decisions going on into the fight.
And make so much damage stick as well with that interrupt on the heel. It is one of the things that makes Seer part of this classic meta composition that RHHS are running, with the Valkyrie who can help you get into zone early, who can reposition you out of perhaps fights that you don't want to take in the mid game, with the Catalyst that can engage or disengage using their wall, and with Seer who can either win you a great fight or stave off another team with the ultimate. Flexibility is what RHHS and many of our squads have in spades.
That is what they can do from this position. Again, RHHS, a team that succeeded from high ground positions. They know that they don't necessarily have to be playing on each other's backs here. They can get a lot of vision from this point and not necessarily be in too much danger to be spread apart here. So they can have their eyes in a lot of different directions, Dia, and they can really plan out how they want to make their next move.
I'm going to play the northern side of this for now. I don't mind the play from RHHS, as they also get to make use of the Harvester, picking up a lot of the meds that they'll desperately need. SCC, however, pick up that early knock onto Luang. Gonna be likely picked up, as there isn't a lot of ability to finish off kills that are quite close to home here in Survey Camp, but shields on the ground can only mean two things. They're either swapping them or they think there's a crypto in the area, both of which could be true, as Olympus enjoyers are running crypto, but we haven't seen where they're at just yet. Quick retake from SCC. We've got plenty of time to play with here. Catalyst again, I mean, extraordinarily flexible. You can lock people in, you can keep yourself safe with the doors that she's able to put up. And when Catalyst does put up a door or reinforce one, it is only her and her squad mates that can then interact with it. So Ramen Maid is going to be on door duty for now, and picks up a nice headshot. Don't mind if I do, as the 30-30 continues to keep teams down in Survey Camp. If the zone, however, does pull here, I'd also like to start thinking about maybe switching off the 30-30. It's a great gun to have. At short range, doesn't hit nearly as well.
It does not hit nearly as well, right? It's not one that you're going to be happy to have if a team rolls up on your position, although I feel like given the climate that's going on currently, it's not likely that a lot of teams are going to push this as early as would become a detriment holding on to this weapon.
I think it's quite funny that SCC also have Watson fences that aren't even theirs on the outside of their door. It's just that extra layer of defense that everybody apparently is contributing to. They continue to farm things up, however, as Ramen Maid has really been the MVP of the squad so far, able to pick up so much more effective HP for the team and risking the positioning with this Catalyst as well. I mean, if Catalyst goes down, there is nothing to stop SCC from being pushed, but they're saying, you know what? Maid, you've got the best chance of finding these shots anyway. It is worth the risk.
Is it a risk that they're going to take, though? I mean, they've got, these doors are sealed off. They can do a ton of damage from here. It's just, again, not a ton of reason to move until they sort of, maybe see a domino fall in any of these directions, and then they can kind of decide, although they are being scanned currently by a survey beacon. I don't think it was any secret that they were here anyway, but just to be sure.
Yeah, we got a nice spot, and I think that the survey beacon what it'll likely reveal to squads that are on the outside looking in for survey camp is that there's no real space to play. You've got a few rocks up to the north that are likely unoccupied, but every building, every nook and cranny in survey camp has already found somebody that is more than willing to call it home for the time being. The big change up here will be when the zone starts to close, but Sherby's squad, they're making the change up happen now as they take a big fight with an amazing grenade and simply wipe Anarchy off the face of the map.
Sherby squad now trying to make this dire situation better, but Lexi going down, that certainly doesn't spell good news here. Looks like Cyan wants to get involved himself and continue to try to deal back some damage, but not a lot to be done. They are flying across the top of this building. Both teammates down, trying to stay alive. Sherby's squad falls. That's BFG picking up another squad wipe, and they might not be top of the scoreboard, but they are having a good night themselves so far to start things off, and there's still a lot of Apex to go, so a confidence booster there for them as well. They've had a couple unlucky breaks, and we'll see if they can make this one theirs with 16 squads remaining.
Yeah, everybody is seriously cleaning up towards the northern end on this train line. This is a position that you would have wanted to play, say, last season, as zones were a little bit more predictably vertical when we did get up into the nice Skynade into the survey camp area. Now, however, things have become a little more unpredictable, and I look towards this next zone to really dictate whether we can look at BFG's position and say this fight actually got them a decent one. Olympus Enjoyers, nice Valkyrie, don't get shot from above. They're gonna be okay, thank God they survive, and it's because we've got another Valkyrie going off behind them. Great minds think alike, but Olympus Enjoyers thought that little bit faster and are gonna be able to land on the care package first.
And oh baby, we got a Kraber. Love seeing this come out, and we saw some great gameplay with this in the open division on our last weekly stream. Let's see if the Olympus Enjoyers can make this puppy sing.
I mean, if you are enjoying Olympus, it's got to be quick moves. Plenty of time spent playing in open space when you're on Olympus. And though the map isn't going to be in the rotation today, Epicenter actually does ring remarkably similarly in the small amounts of cover that you're able to play moving out towards survey camp. So, see what Swoobles can do. You like the map? Let's see how many angles they can actually get in this third game. Maybe they can put themselves close to match point. Olympus Enjoyers entered this game 10 points in total. So they'd need a 30-point game. Not something they're likely to pick up, but can absolutely get pretty darn close. I like that we're being conservative with this Kraber ammo as well. Just watching everything pass by and using it more as a scouting tool later in the game. You want to have at least 4 shots to be able to change your team's life. And 8-second gaming gets his life changed. Does take that portal. Was it to safety? I'm watching the kill feed to find out. I think he's going to be able to be picked up. Nice knock by Little Optimist.
And while this has all gone down, Dia, I've had some lovely angels in my ear letting me know of a mistake that I have made earlier in the broadcast personally. It is a 50-point match point. It is standard ALGS rules. The 40 points that we were initially talking about on broadcast was an error that I made in how I was reading something. So yeah, it's 50 points. And I do want to reiterate that for the players, that we are playing 50-point match point. And so if you're going to get mad at anybody, just make sure you go in my Twitch or my Twitter DMs. It is going to require you to follow me and continue to look at all my gaming content. But it is an error that I made, and I am somebody who likes to own up to that. So yeah, it's 50 points. At the all end, all the players have been made aware that anything they've heard about 40 points, that's not true. We're playing that 50 points. So teams like Vitamin A, SCC, who were close, they still could definitely get there based on the games that they've had in the past. They could get to that match point in this game, but we are playing the standard 50 points.
Yeah, going to be a really, I think, welcome adjustment for our competitors that, as you say, want that classic ALGS experience, and a big breather for squads, say, like Olympus Enjoyers, who are already watching people sit up near that match point. Nice crack from Swoobles, 140 damage directly to the chest. But you landed one of those to the face, and things get really good for Olympus Enjoyers. not bad for 20 an hour. Not bad in this game, but not really what they would be looking for, I don't think. And oh, Tecto, this is a great position to be in. This is high ground if I've ever seen it.
I think it's actually in the next zone as well, so not often that we see a spot like this actually end up in zone 5. They do have a better position than the team below them, but still not a particularly enviable one as the zone continues to close. They'll be face-to-face with those squads that sit up by the Macaroni building, in between Epicenter and Climatizer. And again, ADXT gets fried. We've seen ADXT survive to the very late game before, so I'm not counting them out no matter how low they fall.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot that they can do in this position. And again, I think it's kind of been a theme. You don't want to spring the trap early, because if you spring the trap early in Apex Legends, you can really end up not getting what you wanted out of the position at all. It's a big game about timing, even if it's timing your attack from a power position like this.
That certainly is. Balance looking for a nice time to rotate in themselves. They do have that Valkyrie, and around the outside of Survey Camp only have a few seconds left to make it work. They've actually got one of the safer positions to Valk ult out of, and the fact that they're holding on to this position for so long makes me wonder whether they're going to take it. Seer not going to find any interruption right then, but Balance have a limited amount of time, and they're going to take an aggressive portal right up into the face of another squad. Orca has made it out safely, and now they're looking for picks. Nice headshot, but now with Ramen taking a lot of damage right here, we might see SCC go down. Orca waits a little while, tanks a bit of that zone, and is now being shot at from above. No Ash Portal, no Valk ult, and Balance are stranded on the low ground, now without a Seer, now without a Valkyrie, and with just Orca left standing. It's up to the R99, and it will not come up clutch. BFG take the risk, and it pays off, getting them another kill point.
That's big for BFG. I mean, we talked again. This is a game that they really want to bounce back in. They've made their presence known. They've been in the thick of it. It just hasn't gone their way, right? And so, especially with things being that 50-point match point, they can really get there here. RHHS to fall,
Ooh.
SCC to fall. Oh, SCC going down. It's going to be interesting to see whether they actually get to that match point now or whether they don't. Either way, they're going to have to wait till the next one to continue to add to their total. Boa Boys as well, going to bite the dust. And Tecto, I don't know, they might be waiting a little bit too long in this position. There's not a lot of ground to sit on here.
I'm surprised nobody's shooting at them. There are several teams, Vitamin A among them, that could be taking poke at Tecto Elite. Vitamin A playing the bridge of death right now, not in anybody's sights. Off to the southernmost side of this ring. You see the Seer ult in the distance, and it may be a fight kicking off, but still a crucial cooldown expended, as there is a three-way squad fight happening down in the south. Team 7 no longer a part of it as they get taken down, and Tecto take that big risk as they see the fight break out and use the Catalyst wall to make their own rotation up onto the high ground just a little bit safer. Flex on the Seer, and a mobile Legend is going to get here without taking any damage, but he swings right into the face of a duo, doesn't get fried, and is able to put out an immense amount of damage with this. Eva finally gets taken down, but it's Tecto Elite that have lost 2 in the meantime, and now Big Daddy from the low ground is unable to fight for the lives of his squad mates.
Olympus Enjoyers, they're the next to fall. Tecto going to continue to try to... Oh, this could be some bonus kill points here. Ape Escape falls as Big Daddy is going to find one here. He's got some pressure from Vitamin A, continues to stay alive. Does have a chance, I think, to get this, shield that off, and reconsider the position, but so does Vitamin A, who are in a strong position themselves.
They needed Little Optimist though, and I don't think they're going to get that res in time. Watch the kill feed as Tecto Elite, they're going to go down, but you need to see if Little Optimist gets back into this game or whether he gets knocked, washed, and sloshed. Our aggressive squad from the start has taken out BFG Esports, and now they've got dominance over this Macaroni building with 8-second gaming in the Bloodhound ult. Another scan coming up in the next 10 seconds, and only 4 teams left.
Hostile spotted.
Little Optimist got back in.
Enemy over there.
Little Optimist. I'm just kind of letting the gameplay
speak for itself here. I'm as interested as anybody in this situation to see how this is going to play out, because there's 4 squads left, a little bit more room to work with than you might normally expect. But Washed and Slosh and Crimson Lotus are 1 and 2 seed coming into this. They're still alive and they're looking to make their mark. Now, I don't know if both teams are going to be able to do that here. So it's really going to be a battle at the end. And I'm wondering if either of these teams realizes it. Alongside them, it's Vitamin A. It's the team that's been having a grand old time today and has really been pushing themselves towards this match point.
They've got a really tenuous position right now. Washed and Sloshed know it. There's so little cover behind these rocks, and even with the Watson, there's only so much space you can take up. Little Optimus gets shield broken, and Frapper is just looking for that aggressive swing. Finds just the gen, and does not get fried before he pops back into the void, letting Washed and Slosh take a quick reset as a Gibby Bubble now thrown down. Means that there's another squad involved in this fight as well. Washed and Slosh sit back and watch it happen as they manage to disengage again with this Gibraltar.
Do they realize they're being kind of oh yeah,
They know
Crimson
now.
Lotus, they've been spotted, I think, a second sooner than they would have liked, but there's a lot of pressure here. I mean, Pressy's just eating bullets, so is Frapper. They're just trying to get some shields off here, trying to see if they can survive. They know that they're kind of in a really tough position. The zone as well also pushing on their back, and so Crimson Lotus fighting from the low ground, but the amount of cover they have here, they can kind of wait for the game to come to them. As it looks like Wash and Slosh, they're making the play. Prezi, the first knock. Frapper joining in on the fun. That's 2 knocked down. Where's the third? They're trying to figure this one out. Lot going down, and that's Vitamin A to fall. Now some damage coming in from Beyond Borealis. This is the duo in the lobby looking to soften up Washed and Sloshed and see if they can get anything, but Crimson Lotus coming in to clean it up. Crimson Lotus, Washed and Sloshed in this final zone. A lot of damage being exchanged. 1 player down on each side, and it looks like A, C, and CGM have a little bit more to work with than their opponents, and Crimson Lotus are going to be the winners here in Game 3.
A great time to clutch up for Crimson Lotus. They've been sitting at second place throughout this past week, waiting for their chance to strike back at Washed and Sloshed, who took the spot that Crimson had earned. They're back for revenge, and in Game 3, they finally pull it out. A big 12-point win going over to them, and now they've actually put themselves in the conversation for being one of those teams to get close to match point. Crimson Lotus were sitting at 14th going into that game with a measly, 7 points? And now they're actually a team that we're looking at to win off of 1 game alone.
Yeah, and going into Storm Point, that's what it's going to be all about, right? There's a few teams that have been able to catapult themselves up the standings here. A couple unlikely contenders in these final end circles, but that game right there, that's kind of what I was expecting to see right off the rip today. And it's cool to see the fact that we've got Washed and Slosh, Crimson Lotus, our 1-2 seed all season long, just fighting with each other. Both of them, a huge amount of kill points to really push themselves up that scoreboard and get themselves closer to that match point. That was a huge game, Dia, for a lot of different sides here.
That's incredible. I mean, Washed and Sloshed absolutely crushed it. 14 kills is just a ridiculous amount, and Crimson Lotus with a more regular but still very impressive 10-kill game as well. These are 2 teams that, again, while not reaching match point, I don't think we've had anybody reach match point just yet, based on the scoreboard as it is right now, are in that conversation, should be in the top 5, and after next game, who's to say? You can tell that Crimson Lotus and Washed and Sloshed are more comfortable in these fast-paced lobbies, and when we get to Storm Point, things do tend to go a little bit faster. We've got a couple more games coming up. Our first one on Storm Point, our 4th map of the day, will be coming up after a break in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
What's going on, guys? It's the Ma here.
I'm Cheesy Potato.
Yeah, I'm playing in the TELUS Invitational.
I've always really been a gamer, playing Halo, and then I eventually transitioned into Call of Duty, into Fortnite as Battle Royales became a little more popular. And then I eventually stepped into Apex Legends. The thought of becoming a content creator was just a mere dream that I had. My brother, Dr. Moz, pushed me out of my comfort zone to essentially start streaming, and that's when the grind for competitive Apex and chasing high Apex Predator ranks began.
Started Apex at day zero, first day the game came out. And yeah, I worked hard then. I was playing on console at first and just playing pubs all the time with a couple buddies. The longer Apex went on, the more serious I got about it. I started putting in more hours, putting in more work, making more content, like falling in love with the game in general. The only advice that I would give is basically just grind and put in the hours. It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Just find like a solid group of friends that have the same mindset as you and then just grind.
The biggest thing is putting yourself out there, whether that's chasing high ranks for content creation or to start scrimming and competing in tournaments at the highest levels, such as the Apex TELUS tournament.
Welcome back, folks. We are about to jump into our first couple games on Stormpoint with 3 games of the TELUS Esports Series 2 featuring Apex Legends down. We're in our Intermediate Divisions Finals, and now we get the chance to see how they perform on one of the more chaotic maps in Apex Legends history.
I didn't hear what you said necessarily
Oh,
because
no.
I think you might have been on mute.
I understand. I was muted for you. I wasn't muted for everyone else. So they heard me say, we're going to Stormpoint. It's about to be game number 4, and I think that's enough, Crackshot. I think I've gotten you all the necessary context.
That's all the context I need. I mean, what else context do we need running into this game for? I mean, we got a number of teams reaching towards that match point. They're getting close here, as you can see, flashing it up on the screen. Shouts out to the lovely graphics designers behind the scenes making this possible. And as you know, in that last game, it was pointed out, yeah, we do need to get to that 50 points as advertised in the ALGS format. There weren't placement points coming into this, and so teams really have to work hard to get there. That said, we've got a top 5 here that really is within, I'd say, one good game's reach of getting there. I mean, Vitamin A, they're one pretty, I guess, mediocre game away from getting there. Washington Slosh doing their part there. Crimson Lotus coming out with the win to catapult themselves up the standings here. And I mean, it is still anyone's game. You know, again, once you get to that match point, you have to win the next game in order to successfully capture the championship here. So there could still be a lot of Apex left. And we're super happy for everybody joining us here on Twitch, YouTube, and Optic TV to watch this one with us.
One of the most important things about this game as well is that our first two teams on the leaderboard, Vitamin A and Washed and Sloshed, just have to keep going with business as usual. Both of them are averaging over 12 points a game, and that will easily put them on match point as long as Storm Point doesn't fall apart for them. Teams like SSC and Crimson Lotus, you gotta kick it up a gear, gotta go a little bit further above average, and of course, as we go down the leaderboard, you just need incredible games, especially if you are one of our few teams sitting at below 10 points. This is where you have to kick it into next gear and hope that Storm Point is your map, as it does play very differently. And interestingly enough, Crackshot, we don't have nearly as many squads playing towards the center of the map. Almost everyone's on edge.
They're all playing towards the outside, anticipating moving towards the inside. And as you said, it does play very differently. I think, you know, in terms of middle game engagements, you're not going to see as much, I think, third partying and stuff as you saw on World's Edge. It's a lot more segmented into different sections of this map. Storm Point is its own beast, you know, love it or hate it. This is where we're at. And Washington Sloshed, I mean, loot-wise, they're doing really well early on in this game. They're in a good position, and I'm interested to see how these teams that are towards the higher parts of the leaderboard are going to play this. Are they going to go super aggressive and potentially have to put themselves another game behind the 8 ball if it doesn't go their way, or are they just itching to get to that match point? They know what they have to do to take this. I mean, there's a couple different schools of thought that you can work through there, and we get to kind of see which one they decide to go with, but it is a slow going early game, and I think you could probably expect that here as we switch to the new map. Players get acclimated and teams decide how they want to play this.
Yeah, I'm a really big fan of the way that Washington Slosh started off the day, and it gives me a lot of hope for their Storm Point games. That Newcastle first game wasn't the best, but what I really like about Washington Slosh is that they are one of our squads that have been willing to change things up. We saw a few teams, actually one, pull out the Ash, but most teams have chosen to stick with their original composition, even heading into Storm Point. Washington Slosh doing the same thing from World's Edge, but already showing that they're willing to adapt and really hunker down with this Gibraltar, as it proved to be so useful in their most recent endgame. Not bad for 20 an hour. They've got center point over here in checkpoint. A great position to defend from, but not a very active one, nor one that's easy to clean up kills. Instead, Camel Razor's going to get pushed, and a nice defensive smoke from 20 keeps him alive, even as he gets tethered away. Carr not really finding any damage inside the smoke, but gets a nice shot with the 30-30, and we've got a Sheila in the game as a Rampart's up on the high ground.
There is a lot going on in this fight, but with that wall, I think that kind of really settled the scores and said, okay, we'll have this side, you guys have that side. Let's take a second, let's everybody catch our breath, and let's maybe revisit this engagement. And I kind of like how both teams have kind of realized that that's the case. Once that wall goes down, maybe it's a great play from It's Elite there to bail his team out of getting dropped on there so early on in this one.
It's just such a smart use of cooldowns for not bad for 20 an hour. They used the smokes initially, then they throw down the wall. They earn themselves that disengage through the use of their abilities alone, but Balance are not taking no for an answer. It is fight or nothing, and right now, pushing up onto the high ground, they've got to be careful that it doesn't come up nothing. Catalyst going to be able to zone out as It's Elite puts down even more damage, and out comes the Seer ult defensively and a 3-man swing. Not bad for 20 an hour, reclaiming control of this fight, and full thirsting Frosty as finally Depths gets an answering Seer ult, but it may be too little too late. No knock just yet for Orca, as the Peacekeeper does have to put in overtime, but is too far away, and Balance will just fall over aggressive, and they pay for it.
But you know what? I do respect balance in that position. I mean, looking at the leaderboard, they're in 14th place coming into this one. They realize that they need to make up ground and they need to do it quickly because, the longer they wait to try to target that match point, they need to, rack up some kill points and they need to have a strong game. So they kind of realize that if they play slow and they wait for other teams to, take advantage of the situation that they're in, they might not get the chance to do so themselves. So that push, as unfavorable as it may be, I can absolutely understand it from their perspective, and it just didn't go their way.
Yeah, at least they went out on a fight they knew they wanted to take. Valcolt, this is not going to go well. Zyphon, how is Zyphon alive? One more shot, and the Valkyrie plummets from the sky. Ramen Maid going to try and fix this by throwing out some interesting nades on the way down, but he gets fried on the way out as well. Another shot from 8 Second Gaming takes him down, and Washed and Sloshed find another squad. They find SCC, the squad in third, the squad that was chasing them, now shut down.
And that's huge for Washed and Slosh. Not only is that 3 kill points, but I think, from the tone of your voice, D, I think that everybody can tell how big that engagement is, how much of an impact it's going to have on this match point and who's going to be able to reach it first. SCC already taking a game today. Washed and Slosh coming in second there, but having a lot of respectable placements and kill points is still definitely in the conversation here to reach match point, and making sure that another team is going to take that much longer to get there. I think that might mean, there's 17 squads left. There's no placement points there for SCC. I think St. Clair College is going to, they're going to have to take an extra game to get there, and they're buying themselves separation is what they're doing and winning that fight.
And it may seem small, but in match point, it is anything but. The more space that you have, the more time between other teams hitting match point and you actually already being on it, it increases your chances of winning by tenfold. Because winning a game in Apex Legends is no easy feat. We've already seen 3 totally separate teams do it, and that's before any of them were really under pressure to have to do so. Once you actually get into endgames where everybody knows that their objective is simply to be the squad that walks away in first place, it is nearly impossible to navigate flawlessly.
There's so many things that can go wrong, and for anybody that thinks winning a game is easy, I challenge you to watch me play ranked. And so that's, it's not an easy task. That said, when you look at this lobby and how talented it is top to bottom, I think it only gets harder, right? I mean, these players are starting to notice each other's tendencies. They're starting to know, okay, this is a team that if we get damage on them early, they may sit back, or they may just continue to push us. I mean, there's so many factors that go into it. The more variables you're adding to that situation, the more difficult it's going to be to actually win that game when it comes time to do so. So yeah, as you were saying, that separation, that extra time, it gives you more cracks at it. It gives you a better chance to get the game that you want, because it's not always going to come into your favor. And Lexi taking some damage may go down. Is Lexi going to be able to get out of this? That's the question. Frapper wisely not going to push the flames there, but Sherby squad is eventually going to fall, and that is going to be the end of them in this one. As well, Tecto Elite to fall. That's a big kill there, as Vince and Axie are going to combine to shut down Tecto.
Somebody playing Fuse has an illegal amount of grenades. We already saw the ult. We've seen 8 nades tossed in a window at this point, and Washed and Sloshed playing defense for as long as they can over here in Millage are going to have to contend with this at some point. Quick consideration of the Trident. It's actually holding down this position really excellently right now, denying yet another entrance into any fight that Washed and Sloshed may take themselves. They're set up really well for close range, and now that you've got that scan, I don't think Washed and Sloshed wait around for this fight to come to them. They very well likely will get aggressive on the team in front of them.
Yeah, I mean, they've been aggressive so far. It's worked out. At some point, I think it's easy to see when players just sort of enter that flow state mode and they're ready for an engagement. And with Washed and Sloshed, they've been continually pushing the envelope here in the intermediate division and continually putting up respectable numbers. Not known to be, an extremely aggressive team by any means. They're a tactical team, tactically minded. They really want to find themselves in those end games, but when it's clicking, you can start to see how these players are interacting with the environment around them. And Anarchy is wisely going to look at what was going on and saying, hey, this is a hot team. This is a team that could really use these kill points on us. And I don't like our odds at this current moment in time. Let's reposition. Let's see if we can add some more variables to the fight in our favor. That's some good damage out the window there. The little Optimist doing a ton of damage, but going to go down eventually. That Watson barrier not going to stop bullets, unfortunately, and assistant Jondal of State. That's a name. Vitamin A is in a bit of a rough position here. Are they going to be able to get this res off? That's the question. Again, those doors are blown wide open, right?
They need a defensive nade of some kind to make sure this doesn't get swung. Doesn't look like they're going to get it. Interrupt on the theoretical res for the Teletubbies, but with just one member left and a seer no less, how much can you really do? No swing available, and now with just 50 HP left, if that, Vitamin A is going to get the reset. No question about it. In comes that big knock, though. Luang goes down, and now Big Puck finally gets fried, but Vitamin A lost 2 in that engagement. We'll see if they're able to recover. Doesn't look like any other squads are looking at them. A miracle for Vitamin A, as this could have been a denial of their entry onto match point.
And this is where the mental part comes in, right? Because that's an engagement 1 by Vitamin A. They're a team that is near the top of the scoreboard currently. They're inching towards match point, but there's still 15 squads left. With how close they just came to going out of this game with 1 kill point and barely any placement points. I mean, Dia, do you have to ask yourself, are they going to be, they're going to be happy they got out of that engagement, but does it inspire confidence? And that's where the mental part comes in, right? That's where you got to not think too much about what just happened. Say, hey, a win's a win. We take that. Let's move forward and try to position ourselves well to get onto match point following this first game here on Storm Point.
I'm going to add even another dimension to this and ask how their mental, not just how their mental is affected, but how their physical game is going to be affected.
Yeah.
You and I have both been in situations where you clutch up a fight. We have never been in situations where you clutch up a fight that means this much. I dare say none of these players have been in a situation where they're able to clutch up on a match point format finals in front of all of Canada. Your hands are shaking. Yeah, it's your first map on Storm Point. You are maybe 2 good games away from closing it out. Vitamin A have got to contend with that on top of everything you just mentioned in a regular game of Apex.
Yeah, it's certainly something that we're going to have to see how teams adapt to, and we're going to have to see which teams sort of rise to the challenge. I mean, I've played my fair share of competitive games. I've played on large stages in the past in my career, maybe not as large as some of the casters you're going to see in the other finals. But that said, I've played with players who, they thrive under the pressure, right? They realize that there's a lot at stake, and they live for those moments here. It looks like Not Bad for 20 an Hour is going to be in one of those moments themselves. Good amount of damage coming out right now. 8-second Gaming taking a ton of damage. Camel Razor doing his darndest to weaken the front lines of
Washed and sloshed right around the corner here. Not Bad for 20 an Hour. Gonna be able to escape as they jump out of checkpoint, but they lose 2. And having Prezi pick those thirsts up, we're seeing the value of the Gibraltar that Washed and Sloshed have pivoted to. That bubble to open up the fight gave them full information, a safe place to push from, and forced a close range engagement onto a team that was vastly unprepared for Gibby to enter the lobby.
Yeah, and that's huge from them. I mean, Not Bad for 20 an Hour is just going to try to see what they can do with its lead. I got a little tripped up myself in that fight. I'm sure everybody heard that because I was just expecting. I saw so much damage coming out on Washed and Sloshed, but that wall, that initial push, regardless of the creative position that was taken by their opponent, it bought so much time in that engagement for them to be able to, swing it in their favor, even if the early damage wasn't necessarily indicating that that was going to be the case.
Yeah, it's just really nice knowledge from all these teams, what their legends, what their compositions, and what these individual players do best. Crimson Lotus making use of their own ability to fight as a sort of deterrent to other squads. They're saying, listen, we're willing. CJAM's going to take the flank on this Wraith, We're going to see what we can make happen. They are, however, getting pushed from the high ground. As that is our solo surviving member. It's Elite, trying to stay alive for the squad that has to expend the Catalyst wall to get down the hill safely.
Crimson Lotus, I'm interested to see what they do with this position, right? I mean, again, this is another team that's
Crimson
right
Lotus
up
is
there
loot right now. Underneath.
I did the mute thing.
You did the thing that I did?
I did it. You know, I just didn't want you to feel alone.
Great minds.
You know,
yeah.
hey, we talk about stamina. We talk about endurance for these players. How about for us casters? Okay, come on. You know,
there we go.
Got to give ourselves some love where it's at. It's Elite. This is a spot. It looks, you know, from a distance, this kind of just looks like a bush.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. You know,
this is
you
one
back
of
it
the
up a little
spots of
bit,
all time.
We've seen, you know, of all the spots on this map, this is certainly one of them.
Yeah. Well, we're trying
Crimson
to say,
Lotus,
I think,
are they going to notice?
For people who perhaps, you know, haven't watched a lot of Apex Legends, haven't watched a lot of Storepoint, what Crackshot and I are trying to say is this is not a great spot to be in. There's little to no visual cover. You're the last member of your squad. You're a Catalyst. There's not a lot of survivability, and yet it's the best you can do right now. And everybody's going to be doing their utmost to survive for as long as possible. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work out. Vitamin A with the cheeky play right there. A little optimist. Take a minute to deconstruct that. Places a fence node of Watson outside the door. If any squad pushes up and starts to perhaps assault that door, look for a few kills or a little bit of pressure, a safe place to play. Little Optimist has the opportunity to put down a node on the inside, instantly stunning and slowing everyone sitting aggressively on the door. The more you know.
Absolutely. I mean, that's, you know, that's a veteran move. I think that's not something a lot of Watson players are going to think to do. But the Little Optimist here has shown that they can get creative. You know, they've been submitting clips. We've seen them in the weekly montages, and this is definitely a way that you can give your team an advantage. Vitamin A, not a team, I'll be completely honest, they're not a team that I had on my radar to be performing as well as they are. But again, we talked about how teams could rise to the occasion. Rising right up is Crimson Lotus on top of this rock.
Oh, yeah.
A ton of damage early on from Zilla, who's looking to drop in. 1 down, 2 down. There's a lot of carnage here. CJM going to need to try to clean up this mess and see if they can finish this fight off. There's a lot of shields to work around here. This can get confusing. And no, Crimson Lotus not able to finish it off. Beyond Borealis is going to be the team that wins that engagement, and with 8 squads remaining, a huge win for them to catapult themselves potentially up the standings here.
And Crimson Lotus get shut down before they hit that match point threshold or get even close. They were sitting at 4th place coming into today, and coming into this game, while they picked up just a few kills here, it's not nearly enough to even make certain that they're going to be able to hit match point next game. BFG, same story, just a little tougher. They were sitting at 5th and now get eliminated. Granted, both these teams made top 10, so a few placement points will be a concession made, perhaps a small comfort to these teams and players. But Vitamin A have been feeling nothing but confidence since we got out of that mid-game engagement that almost claimed their lives. They were sat at 43 points. They've got a single kill so far. And if they can claim one more squad and make top 5, Vitamin A should be match point eligible.
You know, if the math checks out, math was never my strong suit, but it's, you know, something that I'll try to work on as we start to get into the nitty gritty of the numbers here. Frapper taking some early damage, but has an advanced position right now. Jay going to try to get some information. And I think, yeah, Frapper's realized, hey, without my homies here, this is the poke and prod I need to do. And it looks like Beyond Borealis quite aware of the position and saying, hey, this is our rock. Leave us alone, please.
How wild is it, actually? Vitamin A and Washed and Sloshed are both in these 2 buildings that Beyond Borealis are looking out over. These 2 squads, the top 2, are right next to each other, and the rest of the lobby, 4 other teams, surround them from every corner, looking and waiting for someone to mess up.
Oh, they're waiting. They're doing their best, I think. Like, again, Vitamin A, a team that I didn't have on my radar coming into this one, but performing so well that you can't count them out in this situation, despite being sort of low ground and stuck between 2 teams here. I'm interested to see if anybody is actually going to, you know, trigger that Watson trap that you had alluded to earlier, Dia.
If anyone might be beyond Borealis, there's not a whole lot of cover out here. You see them pinging the rock right next door. Not a terribly active position. In fact, I'm going to straight up call him on it. Beyond Borealis playing very passively at the moment, and it may just be the right position for them to be in, but it isn't one that's going to give them a lot of influence over the state of the game. Washed and Sloshed, actually similar story right now. Trapped inside the building, but wait till this next squad comes around the corner, because that's where Washed and Sloshed can change everything. Gibby Bubble is always available. A close range engagement is always one smart cooldown away.
Washed and Sloshed again, they're kind of thinking about what they want to do here. They think they're pretty aware of the positions of their opponents, and they just don't want to overextend. Again, we talked earlier about springing the trap a little too early and how even that can just cause you to, you know, get the back foot in a fight.
Mobile respawn beacons being called in from the sky. These will provide a little bit of cover, a paltry bit, but eating 1 or 2 bullets in this end game is all you really need, as Washed and Sloshed are one of our squads in the toughest position. They have a squad right above them, and these two teams are going to have to fight with plenty of others looking out over them. DWB going to be the team up on height right now, slowly but surely advancing this line of rampart walls, this mobile cover. See how they're able to survive. As I don't like the spot, but I do really like rampart, so I'm crossing my fingers.
This is going to be a little bit... Okay, the wall. Now that's a chance to move.
Whoa, they're going to drop guns!
Oh, they dropped! Oh, they went early! I'm not sure that they were ready. I'm not sure anybody was ready for this. DWB gonna back off from this fight initially, but currently, I think the damage has been done. It looks like Frapper's in a rough position. DWB getting a ton of damage off here.
Here comes Sheila!
Just falls, Washed and Sloshed out of the engagement all of a sudden. There's just 4 teams remaining, and the wall falls. Now
but Vitamin
the wall
A
falls, there's no cover.
Vitamin A, they're the ones sitting here watching it all happen. They swing in for that third party. We do still have 3 squads left, so Vitamin A have to be very careful about the way they reset. Out comes the shield swap, and Little Optimist sets up those bits of cover, that land that Watson can claim, and climbs right over with the R99, frying Team 7 and eliminating them from the game. It's time for Vitamin A to face off against the last squad. This last squad that has put themselves in a corner, and beyond Borealis have nowhere to go. Nothing is safe, and Vitamin A are shepherding them towards an inevitable end game. JP the T-God, he's going to be the one to push up, needs to find a 1 clip with the car, and does not. On the low ground, slowed down. This Valkyrie simply cannot find the bullets necessary. Doesn't even get the knock then, but finally with the 30-30 starts to claim it back for the squad, and in they come. Vitamin A, the backup is there. They claim their 2nd win of the day, and they certainly put themselves on match point.
Yeah, I think that question's been answered now. Were they going to be on match point? Yeah. You know,
extra yes.
That was, yeah, actually now they're not only on match point, but they're like well past it, and that's a statement piece for them to be able to win that game. So much going on outside of the windows where they were hanging out in that building. I looked at it and I said they might get pinched between 2 or 3 teams here. Instead, they just waited. They waited for the game to come to them. There were some walls in their way. The walls fell at the perfect time. Sometimes things all just fall into place for you, and they did for Vitamin A. And hey, when it's out there for you, sometimes you got to reach out and take it. That's exactly what they did. Huge congrats to them for winning game 2 and for reaching match point.
And you said it in game number 3. It was one of the things that I heard, and I was like, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I want to touch on this again. Apex Legends is a game of timing, and Vitamin A's timing has been so on point. Their swap over to this map came with a lot of questions. Can our zone team actually make this work on Stormpoint, a map that plays out very differently? They almost had their journey cut short out of top 10, yet they win the game. They put themselves on match point, and I'm still waiting on confirmation, but from my perspective, I'm going to estimate they're the only team there. They've got a full game of buffer to try and win before anyone else is even in the conversation for ending the day's games.
Yeah, there's a lot of conversation to be had about what just went down, and we are sure to absolutely get that conversation to you as we get this next lobby ready and set to go for our second game on Storm Point tonight. Of course, we want to thank everybody for tuning in today to TES2 Apex Legends here on Twitch, YouTube, and Optic TV. Thanks so much to our sponsors for making this happen, and we'll catch you guys after a short break while we get the teams ready.
We're on a
We're
car.
in a car.
Yeah. We're on a high-speed chase.
Face him.
Yo, what's going on?
Crack. What?
What is this game?
Oh, I'm lagging.
Jag vill smängvagga den. Är down. Je tombe dessus. Il est sur le pad, il est mort. Un down. Chill.
Oh no, down here, bro. Free. Actually free. I down one. Doctor cracked the wall. Will you shoot the catalyst? She's down. I'm gonna grenade her. One more in the corner.
Yep.
Dead.
He's one.
I got her.
Box,
You're dead.
the box, I'll think.
I got three.
Nice.
Teams out there. Last one. Last team.
Nice. Watson Bence is my king. Bronze Bonobos, they're popping in on the other end of this engagement. Seeing if they do, Molten Mania almost completely shreds a red shield, starts to make this impossible. And what an angle! Not have a lot of cover, but I believe have a little bit of low ground.
Never mind.
Play, maybe a head peek, and oh my lord! It's the dreams of yet another cut short.
Again, how do you push this without putting your team in too much jeopardy? That's the question.
So few legends that can actually find you a different way up there. Horizon being one, Pathfinder being right now, but here it comes. Shinbi's already put this out, and it means that Big Smashers get to take the fight up against the two-man squad of level 4 Gucci Purse and wipe the floor with them, along with Lane as well. I mean, LTB got a lot of competitive experience here. The thing they don't have is a lot of cover proficiency. Lane left wondering what the next move is going to do, trying to push Marsh next nearly as well as the crafted Volt that Marsh has. Up goes the Catalyst Wall. It forces out the Seer ult, and Wee Poutine are going for the end here. Take the swing on Molten Mania, and yet he gets knocked. Pergix fighting back as Wee Poutine do trade in the 1-for-1. Frodon gets some good damage down with the R99, and it is enough. to push them out. The Bronze Bonobos have to drop down, have to take this 2v2 against the Milkers, and now a chance to drop down to play this Wraith knockdown shield. They keep him down, and yet Bronze Bonobos have cover as well. 2 versus 1, and it should be their game. The Bronze Bonobos from second, now finally find first.
Welcome back, everyone. The TELUS Esports Series 2 is perhaps nearing its conclusion here in the Intermediate Division Finals for Apex Legends, as we've just got our first 2 teams on match point. After 4 games, 3 on World's Edge, 1 on Storm Point, we're going to be jumping into our next one now with, I believe it was Vitamin A and Washed and Sloshed, finding themselves in a position to win it all.
Ooh, look at that nice TELUS green on there. Yeah, they've reached match point. They get the green on their names. And that means that if either of those teams wins this game, Dia, it's all over. They will be crowned the winners, and then the rest of the placements will be decided based on the points that they've accumulated. So they don't necessarily mean nothing going into these final few games. Teams that are still in those 6th, 7th spots that are, maybe a little bit further behind the 8 ball right now, maybe a couple games away from that match point still, but yeah, they still do have a chance to win it all depending on how things go. But for them, they can still claw for those placement points, really try to catapult themselves into a position where they might be taking home their share of that $50,000 prize pool.
Now, what should scare everyone from Washed and Sloshed down to the Teletubbies is that Vitamin A have already demonstrated something that is extraordinarily difficult in Apex Legends. Their ability to not just win once, but to do it multiple times. Washed and Sloshed, for as many points as they have, for as far ahead as they are of the rest of the lobby, have not won a game yet. Their chances of doing so have to go up now because their play must be endgame oriented. If you are not planning ahead for Circle 6 and beyond, you're never going to find that first place. And we know that these players competing for the love of the game and some really sick prizes do have that win on their minds.
I think you have to at this point, right? And not only do they have the win on their minds, this is the first game that we're going into tonight where anybody has access to that final victory. So I think it's a little bit on everybody's minds. Maybe it's a kick in the pants. It's fuel for teams that know that they need to step it up and bring their game to a new level in order to catch up here. I mean, this is something that they're going to have to deal with going into this one. And as we've alluded to prior, sometimes the brain power starts to chug at this point. We're in game 5 now. Oh my goodness, Frosty going down early. That wall not providing very much cover at all, and that's going to be balanced to go down early. A big kill from Not Bad for 20 an hour. Not bad at all for a start for them, let's say. I mean, that's a huge opening for them to be contesting that drop spot, to come out on top, and now they've got the benefits of the upgraded shields and upgraded weaponry.
And it's the second time they've won this contest as well. So both teams very clearly opting into it, wanting to battle for dominance in checkpoint. 20 an hour have got essentially 6 KP over the past 2 games. 6 free points that they've picked up. And the danger of contesting is that not only do you fall further behind, your opponents, those that you're contesting against, get to leap further ahead. Something that we got to look out for when it comes to balance, is 20 an hour are really getting a lot of mileage out of this checkpoint landing.
Of course, yeah, and they're sitting in the 8th spot right now coming into this game, and so they're a team that they might be behind a few other teams, but it's a very close contest between all of these teams in this position. And a duo on Anarchy, there's been a couple duo situations when we're talking about a long haul evening like this. Things can go not so great. We've heard of a couple power outages, and unfortunately there's going to be things that happen that are out of your control when you're talking about playing for as long as we're talking about here. Game 5, I mean, if neither Vitamin A nor Wash and Slosh take this, we're talking about a game 6 where more teams could be on match point, and it's only going to continue to compound from there.
Yeah, as we've already touched on, Anarchy, but a team that'll come as a surprise to a lot of people. Crimson Lotus going to be playing things out as a duo. They were 4th place with 34 points going into this game, and now keeping those points, getting themselves even closer to match point, is going to really come at the backs of them being able to play a bit more conservatively, pick their engagements as a duo, and as we've already illustrated multiple times today, use that timing that you've pointed out Apex Legends is all about to their advantage. RHHS making a quick rotation up the map is actually going to be taking them a little further away from the zone. But when you've got Valkyrie on Storm Point, getting yourself up higher on the map is not a bad place to be. It gives you a lot of options with how much value your Valkyrie ultimate can get you when you're Valkying out of places like Command Center or even the high ground right outside of it.
You've got so much high ground to work with. You're going to get so much height, and from that you can get further away, right? So more options for them. They know that they've got the time to really loot up in these positions and get themselves ready. SCC, in what we often see as an endgame power position early on here, Crimson Lotus, again, as we alluded to, an unfortunate power outage on their end is causing them to play in a two-man setup here for their team, and it looks like CGM and AAC, I mean, yeah, I think the idea would be that you would want to play, yeah, see how conservative he's being. He's just watching this team, wants to see what they do. Crimson Lotus not wanting to take any engagements, realizing that being the initiator in any, okay, never mind, I lied. Just forget everything I just said.
You know what? I'm actually on the same page as you. I think that's the right play, but I've also been in the situation where AAC is, where you're going, well, I mean, they're crafting. I could probably one-clip one of them. It's just that little bit of temptation, and it... especially in high-octane situations like this, you know, it can get the better of you. Washed and Sloshed, however, they have not fallen prey to the greed. Look at how they're playing. They are back on old-school Apex Legends here, throwing it back to last season with a Gibraltar and Caustic composition. They are playing slow, methodical, and conservative to give themselves the best shot at an endgame win.
Oh, Caustic, Gibraltar, Valkyrie. I mean, that's an end game comp right there. There's not a lot of aggression that you can do early on with these legends and abilities that they offer. But when it comes down to making things difficult for other teams in tight spaces, I mean, could you ask for anything better? Okay.
Oh, nice kidnap. That was so good from Flex. I think he's going to get the knock. Nice job. Takes out Swoobles, but does get swung on from that very same door. Tecto Elite having to come to the rescue as a Wraith Portal back. It does bring Flex back into the fold. Unfortunately, still going to be taken down as Rapid hits the ground immediately after, leaving Q-Man the last one standing and on white shields no less in a 1 versus 2. Should be a banner recovery onto Flex for Big Daddy and Pappy the King. And then, likely following that, a rotation out of dodge as they are attracting a lot more attention than they bargained for.
Yeah, I don't think that they expected this fight to have so many willing participants. Sherby squad heading straight into the red here. They smell blood and they're sensing a chance to capitalize on a potentially damaged team. But Big Daddy and Poppy the King here, they've created some distance and they've done it quickly. I mean, there's not much else you're going to be able to find here of your Sherby squad. And I'm interested to see, it is still early in the game, Dia. Are they going to be able to try to get Flex back before anything gets too hectic or before they put themselves in a dangerous position to do so?
It really depends on how many meds they have. Barometer does have a respawn beacon right here. It's got a crafter as well. If Tecto Elite are the only ones to sit in zone, they can use that, and even the crafter in Cenote to be able to stay alive for a lot longer, making med kits and the like. Now, the problem is that at this current moment, we don't have a mobile respawn beacon in the crafter, so they are going to have to use one of the ones that you find regularly around the map, ones that I'm sure other teams will be keeping an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, that's the issue, right? Is it, you have to calculate whether it's worth it. And do you think it's worth it to just stay quiet and go for the placement points? I mean, you're so far outside of anything relevant in terms of engagements. Pushing the wall forward is made. I kind of like that. Sherby squad, no stranger to wanting to get involved in this game. I mean, they were just trying to take out the team we're talking about playing in the red here and considering trying to get Flex off. They've taken some damage, and Sherby squad is considering whether they want to continue to force the issue here. Climbing on top is going to be mate, but doesn't like what he sees.
Dude, there are like 3 rolling thunders here, and it's bought enough time that Matey isn't able to get that height. Instead, gets fried on the way down, and while he is cooked, he does manage to survive. Instead, the Arc Star going to take out Gumbo Dumpy. Well, we have a respawn going up on the high ground. Nice gold knockdown for this Newcastle, though. Matey being able to survive was big because now they've got Say and Baka right back into the fight.
Dysania is staying alive, and they continue to get these reses off at the top of this building. And there's the drops. Fatsu wants to get involved a little bit, but is going to rethink it, get broken in the process, but does just barely escape with their life.
Are we climbing? Oh my god, just Lexi takes a miraculous swing, and again, I'm looking at these members and going, how are they alive? Just Lexi barely makes it down the staircase, but Kier still takes him out. Saiyan Baka goes for the swing with this R99, does find a lot of damage, but needs to find the last hit, and he does! Kier goes down, and Sherby's squad are right back into this. Another Newcastle res means that they continue the fight, and Sherby have Matey burned down to the ground. Now as a duo, they've got to clutch this. It's now or never, and JJ playing this immaculately is going to get double swung on, takes down one. Saiyan Baka swings out again, tries to climb and goes down! Sherby squad got taken out, and it's Boa Boys that do it!
Boa Boys coming in, cleaning up, and doing so in style. Now they've got this power position held down. Look at all the death boxes. I mean, what else could they want? They're going to have so much meds. They're going to have the backpacks they want. They're going to be fine on ammunition heading into what tends to be a critical point of Storm Point gameplay, which is these sort of mid-round circles where teams are adjusting their positions and getting ready for those final circles. There's a lot of engagement that tends to happen on Storm Point in this situation. So I'm interested to see, are they going to make good on everything that they've found here? I mean, still alive on the map. Of course, we see SCC, a team that is looking to get towards that match point here.
Very few squads, however, find themselves in the center of the ring. This whole ridge line from Millage over to Mill itself is completely clear of squads. If you are a squad that does need KP, that is the place to be. The Teletubbies certainly need it, and they take out Crimson Lotus. That's the duo that we were talking about earlier, taken out to a solo, and now eliminated entirely as the Prowlers are causing a serious problem over here. The Teletubbies not used to playing like this.
Yeah, I mean, Jurassic Park happening on them, right on top of them, and what are they gonna do? They've got to just fight them, and that's, you know, it's a few seconds off the clock. They do deal with the Prowlers, but even just a little bit could throw you off in those situations. So you've always got to be ready. I'm happy that they were able to not take too much damage, as now we see our HHS looking to potentially reposition. Again, they're playing these high ground positions, and they're so efficient at doing so. They did make it work really well for them in game one. We haven't seen it as much in terms of profitability from them in these following games. A little bit of tech to get across there. I like that. I always like seeing players play with a little bit of style and flow. You know what I mean?
Especially on Valkyrie. I mean, being able to get from place to place super smoothly is really important, not just in this sort of mid-game where you're setting yourself up, waiting for your time to engage, but in that later stage of the game where verticality can mean a world of difference. The Teletubbies, again, Growler to the face, does get dodged. Means they get to pick up a few extra shield cells in a ring where nobody really seems to be looking at them, and for good reason. The ring's continuing to pull further away and into this western side of the map. A quick reset for the Teletubbies also has to be followed up by an even quicker rotation, as they don't have something like a Valkyrie, and instead are going to be having to make use of things like the Ash Portal that are much shorter range and much more difficult to make work if you are in a low ground position.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to, you know, utilize this black market here and see what they can get out of it. But these Prowlers that continue to jump up on them, the amount of distance that they have to cover still, it's concerning to say the least. We'll see what they can do about the situation that they're in. They've held their ground this far, and SCC looking to hold their ground, doing some damage to Beyond Borealis, who are well set up here. Look at all these fences.
This is a big investment. Is the game ending here? Beyond Borealis, cross their fingers and pray that it does. There are some circles that will pull towards this western side of Mill. 30 seconds left. Find out whether time has made a liar of them. The Boa Boys continuing to set up around the edge right now also have a problem. They've got a Valkyrie themselves, but still find themselves not in zone. And this is round 3 that's going to be closing. At this point, as I'm so fond of saying, the ring stops messing around. You're no longer allowed to sit outside of it and out-heal with med kits and the like. Boa Boys, as with many other squads, have to make their way in and fast if they want a piece of this endgame puzzle. Top 11 teams right now, we haven't even hit the top half, but there is about to be a big culling.
Oh, absolutely. There's 3 teams all rotating in on one another here outside the zone to the south. A little bit of engagement going on here. You see Doja Dog firing off some bullets right on the edge of the zone here. And the last thing that you want is to get caught. Here comes the Valk ult to get into the zone. Not bad for 20 an hour. They do elect not to res its elite if they can. Instead, they're just going to try to play placement here, try to stay alive in one of these buildings. We've seen these buildings specifically featured in quite a few highlights for good reason. There's a lot of creative ways that you can play it, but just holding down the door is going to be good enough for Camel Razor right now. Again, just trying to stay alive. Doja Bear gonna take a ton of damage, is going to fall as we see Teletubbies are finding some damage early, looking to take down any further. BFG trying to get out of here. That Nemesis is singing, it's doing some damage. Not bad for 20 an hour. Falls in the meantime. More damage done from the Teletubbies here, and more damage dealt as Dojo Bear falls again. Naples Nation does fall as well. That's going to be, I believe, the end of it, probably. Are they going to just, yeah, they're just going to kind of let it go at this point.
You can't go back for a body like that in the open, and the Teletubbies have been on such a rampage in this 5th game of the day, demonstrating extreme control of the teams around them, much like actually Boa Boys, who have managed to maneuver themselves into the mill. This journey going to take them further out to the west, but we already know there's a squad set up in zone that we actually highlighted earlier, who own the last building that's going to be providing any cover. It's going to be a really big end game determiner if Boa Boys and Teletubbies, if anybody can get there. How do you contend with a squad that has a Watson already set up right in the middle of the circle?
Well, how do you, right? I mean, that's going to be the question. Is teams are going to have to figure it out, right? Again, still on the map, we've got Washed and Sloshed, a team that cannot be discounted at this point. 10 squads left, and that means for Washed and Sloshed, that's 9 squads separating them from the title at this point. These Prowlers popping up, they are causing a problem.
They're like our 21st team, honestly. Like, look at what they're doing now. Teletubbies have so much time to focus on the fight in front of them because this team is busy dealing with the Prowlers. Hip is going to feel so confident that we just get to walk on up with the R99, deny the res, and actually start causing some serious problems. With the Catalyst wall out, there are not a lot of places left to go. Hip is covering all angles, and Author King's going to go down. Ape Escape are going to bite the dust, and the Teletubbies make that fight look easy. Thanks, Prowlers.
Yeah, thank you to the Prowlers for the Teletubbies. You know, happy for them to be doing as well as they are in this game. Sometimes you need things to go your way when you're sitting in a position like they are. They're all the way at the bottom of the scoreboard prior to this one, but that's already going to change, and it's going to change fast based on the position that they're in and how they're playing. Although it looks like the building that they are entering is going to be hotly contested, and some damage coming out now. There's players on the other side of the door. Hip's trying to just hold it. Is he even going to be able to? That's the question.
Oh!
Look at the damage.
That's Sheila, baby. That's Teletubbies missing a member, unable to res now as the zone closes in. But can they even make their way all the way? Zoe is going to be the last one that does so. But up on height, gets fried. BFG Esports claimed the last couple remnants of this team. Still 1 member left for them as well. And everybody coming out of male is going to be a broken squad. Vitamin A starting to push up as well onto what I can only imagine is Washed and Sloshed, since I saw a Caustic Barrel, and indeed, there they are. These 2 teams, the ones that really have to win the game. Now we're going to have to eliminate each other before making it into the endgame circle.
And I'm trying to think in my head of a way that these 2 can avoid the engagement with each other, but it really doesn't seem possible. So this is really going to be make or break for one of these squads. They're going to realize who they've eliminated once this fight is done, and then really the pressure is on.
Nades coming out on Washed and Sloshed. They're thinking about tossing a few back. They've got that Gibraltar bubble, the biggest determiner of a fight for Washed and Sloshed. As Vitamin A make use of an incredible head peek found by Chundle of State. Doesn't find any knocks just yet, but BFG Esports go down, and Little Optimist is feeling a little optimistic. You've got plenty of damage down already. Will you actually be able to find the full kills, the full knocks? Bubbles down for Washington Slosh. No defense left for them, as they've got a defensive bombardment in behind them as well. Frapper's still up, popping a Phoenix behind this rock. Somehow Prezzy's not getting shot at, but Washed and Sloshed, they are certainly not having the game they wanted. As stuck on the low ground, they've got almost no autonomy. Finally, Vitamin A come in and come to the rescue a little bit, drawing some attention away from the Washed and Sloshed on the low ground, but I'm keeping my eye on the kill feed, and unfortunately for them, it's too little too late. Washed and Sloshed are out. Vitamin A, our last team remaining on match point.
4 squads left too. I mean, that's a 25% chance right there, and you got to kind of like those odds. Beyond Borealis trying to get the job done against SCC, and they'll fall, meaning that Washington Sloshed now have to bite their tongues and kind of wait. They've got to hope that Vitamin A does not take this one. SCC as well going to very much be wanting to do their best, because with this performance, with the amount of kill points they have, they can catapult themselves into a match point situation. Vitamin A loses Little Optimist, and that could be what spells disaster for them in this situation.
Good nade, plenty of damage scattered around, however. Vitamin A may even try and go for the res right now. They've got J-Dub swinging on them from above. Not enough damage. There we go. Finally, the first knock on Dolphin. And the health bars are there for Vitamin A. They can clutch this up, but they've got to recover the banner. And SCC are not playing with forgiveness. SCC are playing with the hunger of a squad in third. Make it in second and make it in first. SCC managed to take game number 5 and push us to another game.
That's Saints Gaming, baby. Shout out to those guys. Huge win for them. And I mean, they saw the team that was ahead of them. They saw the team that could have ended their evening in dire straits, and they stepped up. They swung. They realized, yeah, this is our time to move, and this is when we're going to make our move. And so SCC catapults themselves forward. That's surely enough points to get them on the match point. And I think we've got to ask the question now that 3 teams are there. You know, is Crimson Lotus going to get their 3rd member back? Could we see 4 teams? Who knows at this point? It's really anybody's game.
We very well could see a variety of endgame scenarios, many more games, and just as quickly, we could see very few. Our 6th game is coming up. It's going to be our last one on Storm Point before we swap back to World's Edge. But with 2 teams on match point already having picked up 2 wins each today, anything is possible, and I gotta say, it's becoming even more likely that we see them repeat themselves and likely end the day. These other squads have got to step up now or never. Before we jump into our 6th game, or rather into the break, I want to take a moment and shout out our sponsors who have made this possible. A big thank you to all of you for tuning in, and to Nanoleaf, Xbox, HyperX, and GamesCon Canada, and, of course, TELUS for putting on this show. It's been really amazing so far. We've got yet another game coming up, our 6th one of the day, right after a short break.
My name is V Roses.
My name is Tay.
My name is Matt, otherwise known as Zilla.
Actually, my coworker who inspired me to get into Apex. Currently, I'm a competitive Apex player for the St. Clair Saints at St. Clair College. I played Apex casually since Season 7 for a couple seasons, and I peaked Masters twice, and I didn't really think about it until when I moved here and I found SCC.
What started me in my journey as a content creator was my competitive side. I used to play soccer, so you just get this rush, and you're like, oh, I want to be part of something bigger or like better. See where it could take me, you never know.
Probably about a year ago, I was just just playing games for fun since I was 11 or 12, but back on console. When I got my computer, it just opened up a bunch of new possibilities, and I had a lot of friends throughout Winnipeg that were associated with like Lotus 8. They needed somebody to play Apex, and that was the game that I was spending most of my time on.
My advice to aspiring competitors would be to put yourself out there. I know us gamers were pretty introverted, but networking and showcasing your skills online really helps, especially when it comes to getting recognition and putting your name out there.
Honestly, just be yourself and being consistent. I feel like consistency is like one of the biggest things because people like seeing consistency. For competitors, muscle memory, like sometimes before I go to bed, I go in the firing range and I practice so I can keep the muscle memory of like the patterns of the guns, the recoil patterns.
My advice for aspiring competitors would be to follow your dreams. Anybody can do any of this pro player stuff. Anybody can be anyone they want to be. Practice a lot. Find a good group of people who are willing to do that with you and have mutual goals.
Welcome back, everyone, as the TELUS Esports Series 2 continues. We have Game 6 on the horizon and plenty of squads and now on match point. And when I say plenty, I don't mean 10. In fact, I mean a lot less. But what's scary about this crack shot is that multiple teams now that are on match point have already won 2 games today, Vitamin A and SCC.
Vitamin A, and again, I've said it before, and they're impressing me. It's a good thing. They weren't on my radar. Now they're in first place. Again, they had a very close shot at winning that one. They came in second, and it was the team that shut them down in the previous game that now has a chance to win the trophy themselves. SCC moving up St. Clair College into second place. Crimson Lotus they're right on the edge there. They just need one good game here. Beyond Borealis, BFG, not bad for 20 an hour. You know, these are all teams that are just one good game away from cracking into that. So now the pressure starts to shift a little bit. The pressure was on them to catch up. Well, now the pressure is going to be on the teams that have had match point for a while here. They're going to have a shot potentially at catching up and winning themselves. So the teams that are already on match point, they're like, okay, how long do we have? What's our clock looking like here?
A lot of our squads, SCC and Washington Sloshed, have both had stories of improvement where Vitamin A, sort of an outlier, started top 5, finished top 5. They've just been doing real well the whole time, not quite hitting the peak, and yet still managing to hold on to those end game lobbies, and that experience is really paying off here. We are dropping into our 6th game of the day, and as the action kicks off, I want to remind everybody that we've got TELUS putting on this event, but TELUS does a lot of lovely things with their time, not all of them esports related. Check out the TELUS Future Friendly Foundation by typing !TELUS Foundation in the chat. Learn more about the good work that TELUS does all across Canada. As we do get into the 6th game, I'm noticing immediately there's a hot drop at Mill.
Absolutely. There's already early engagement. Cherby squad, definitely a team that I was, kind of expecting to be involved in this. They showed last time that they're willing to get into fights early, and so was not bad for 20 an hour. They'll bite the dust early in this one. Cherby squad looking for some kind of engagement here, looking to see if they can get early damage down. They know there's another team close, but I don't think they realize that they've dipped out. ADXT and company, they don't want any part of this. They don't have the guns. They don't have the willingness to fight it.
It's like this polar opposite to what's been happening at Mill. Balance, by the way, a big congratulations for them for actually taking the fight off of Not Bad for 20 an hour, but they aren't the only ones, and we're seeing squads decide to commit to engagements, and sometimes perhaps not under the best of advisement. Dynasia push up a little too far for their own britches and get taken down by SCC. A real pincer maneuver, and I gotta be honest, Crackshot, against the likes of SCC, it didn't look like Dynasia had a shot.
It didn't look like they did. SCC, they're out for vengeance. They're entering that flow state, and St. Clair College looking to bring one home for their school here if they can take this. And that's certainly, kill points aside, they don't really matter for this squad at this point, but that's one less squad in the way for them. And that's some confidence, some early aim training going on. You see, they're trying to stay fresh, stay ready, because they know it's that last circle that's going to matter for them.
And that circle does seem to be pulling towards the south end of the map. We've got a Barometer finish, and Barometer is a ghost town. Nobody is there. The center of the circle completely vacant of teams. As we talked about when we hit Storm Point, everyone's landing around the edge and now having to make their way straight towards the center of the map. Whoever gets there first has the all-important high ground up for grabs.
It's proven to be important in previous games. I don't know how important it's going to be immediately here, and we'll have to see how the circle pulls. But certainly a good place to be.
I'm really enjoying what we've seen so far. Washington Sloshed running back this composition, even though they didn't win last game. I don't think that they're too disheartened based on how that game went. It was one of those situations where, as a natural consequence of their position, they did get pushed out into a suboptimal spot. Well, they could have played it marginally better. I don't think there are a lot of teams that survive that, and Washington Sloshed, quite rightly, aren't blaming themselves either. Instead, just hitting the reset button on this good old tried and true composition, and now making their way through on a rotation with the Trident. When you combine Gibraltar with Tridents, things get fun. I don't know why we're switching cars.
They want the other one.
Yeah.
That's it.
Cargo fast.
Do they want two? They're gonna get two cars?
Maybe they just wanted the boost without waiting for it to recharge. It's fine. Like, it doesn't bother me. It's just confusing. Like,
now they're gonna go switch. Switch to the other
changing
one.
it up
Switch
on
to the
us.
other one. I was hoping they
If
were going
only.
to switch to the next one. But I mean, again, you can only get so silly when you have the stakes that they have at this point, you know. But it's good to see that they've, you know, kind of hit that mental reset. As you said, they realized that last game didn't go their way, but it certainly could have. And it's about consistency. You mentioned it very early on in the show today, Dia. Consistency is what's going to separate these teams. It's going to be about who can stay fresh the longest and who can really outlast the competition here in this match point format. They're really taking the long way around with this car, and you know, I'm happy to see it.
Not a bad way to do it. If you are going to play conservatively, Washed and Sloshed are doing it more or less better than most squads would have the opportunity to. A lot of teams will be looking at this and wondering how they can pick up KP, but Washed and Sloshed immediately rotate down onto the slow side of the ring, where not a lot of squads are going to be piling in. No matter how far they have to go, Washed and Sloshed have the benefit of knowing that not a whole lot of teams are going to be at their back, which is going to give them a lot of that, as you touched on, consistency when we get into the late game.
And consistency is going to be key, especially for a team here that's coming off something that could potentially rattle you. As we mentioned in the previous game, Crimson Lotus, a top squad all throughout 4 weeks. An unfortunate power outage caused them to have to play the last game as a duo, and that can only go as well as you can expect it to in a high-skilled lobby like the finals here is in the intermediate division. Now, having all 3 members back, how do you hit the reset button there? How do you realize, okay, circumstances out of our control have put us on the back foot. Now, how do we respond to that? And I think that that's going to be the challenge for them here in this one. They've really just kind of got to play their game. They've got to do the little things right, and they've got to not overextend too hard. They know that they're a talented team. They know that they stack up well against other teams in this lobby. It's just going to be about executing on that and not sort of feeling the pressure of the situation.
And it certainly is. RHHS, one of those teams that have done a pretty good job of avoiding a lot of the pressure of today. They've played their own game really well, sitting around the edge, jumping into zones when they need to, and a squad that I'd previously defined by wanting to predict the zone has started to shift that definition a bit, and instead make it so that they're playing a little bit for the later game rotation in. It hasn't been the most consistent for RHHS, but they are the ones that are continuing to opt back into this strategy. We're finding it each time in the most competitive lobby that they have been in throughout the entire regular season of the TELUS Esports Series, and honestly, making it look really good.
Vitamin A doing some damage of their own here after Tay got a knock onto Mate on the way into this building, and oh, look who's been spotted. It's the dastardly duo of Frapper and 8 Second Gaming. Prezzy's out in the open now as well, and Vitamin A, I mean, they're going to realize who that they're doing damage to probably in this situation. They're going to have the information potentially available to them. Oh, this is why they had the 2 cars. They wanted to create some extra cover in this position.
It works. I really like it.
Coming together. It's all making sense now.
That's genuinely a very smart play. If you're able to pull it off, sitting behind 2 cars on that high ground is a lot more cover than most teams that play that position will ever get. And it's going to be necessary for Washed and Sloshed, as we've already illustrated, they are one of our teams on match point, and they're facing off, albeit from long distance, against one of the others. Vitamin A sit in 1 power position over here, and if you're getting a southern pull, there is no more powerful position than that Washed and Sloshed hold. What's confusing me a little bit is SCC, who don't have the greatest position. While there are some end games that'll end on the nut building, not a whole lot of them do. So they're not, shall we say, playing the numbers. SCC opting a bit for the chaos.
Yeah, I mean, they're making their presence known. It's not like they're not shooting back in this position. They're not trying to play like sneakratively, if you will. They've made the lobby aware that this is the position that they're in, and they're almost daring somebody to do something about it. So I kind of like it.
Yeah, this is a solid move from them. Now, Vitamin A, Watson, Loba, aplenty. We know the drill for them. As long as they can cover these angles on height, they're going to be okay. You wouldn't expect a whole lot of squads to push up onto the high ground. However, it's very possible that some play just beneath them. As the next couple rounds close in, it'll be more focused on culling teams that are coming from places like Jurassic if you're rotating in later, even around the side through perhaps even Shipfall, where you can start to cause some serious problems for even Washed and Slosh should you choose to take that really long rotation.
I'm impressed with Vitamin A today. I probably hit on that note a few times by now, but the way that they've been able to get set up in this position, I mean, look at how much free reign they have to continue to just poke and prod, be a thorn in the sides, and they can really extend well out of this position regardless of where the zone is going to play. So they're positionally speaking, for a team that's on match point the way they are, I mean, could you ask for too much of a better scenario? I mean, maybe you could ask for SCC and you know, Watch and Slosh not to be part of the equation at this point, but I think that's a tall order considering 15 squads left. We're still really early days considering that, you know, Circle 2 is just closing right now, and there's still an entire minute left for that to happen. And, you know, seconds are going to start to really feel like a long ways away for these match point teams.
And we know that these guys aren't going to back off either. You get here because you're hungry for the win. There's a lot of friendly competition in the TELUS Esports Series, but these teams, they take it a little less friendly, a little more competition. You know what I'm saying? When you are jumping in week after week, when you've made it to the finals, when you're almost 6 games deep in the 6th one as we speak, you're not messing around anymore, especially if you're one of those squads on match point. So, taking no prisoners, SCC are continuing to get aggressive. We saw them swapping out for a little bit of marksman damage from afar. They've got everyone on purples at this current time, and fortunately enough for them, they're still in the ring. Of our 3 squads that are on match point, who've predicted 3 totally different zone endings, it's now Washed and Sloshed that have to make a move.
They certainly do. And again, Vitamin A just doing damage, just poking from this position. There's so many different ways you can play when you're this high up, and it doesn't really look like anybody's going to be able to tell them that they can't be doing this. You know, they're just going to kind of hang out here, and that's what Vitamin A is ready to do. They've got a good idea of where a lot of teams are. I guess the only downside to this position is there's so much information available to you. You have so many options. Could you choose the wrong one? I mean, is that something that they should be concerned about, Dia?
I think it certainly is. Where Vitamin A are, there are a lot of, as you say, missteps that you can make, especially when this zone eventually does pull off the high ground, which it statistically will. That drop is not something that's been easy for a lot of squads, and with Valkyrie even, there aren't a whole lot of places that are safe in Barometer to ult from, especially on this high ground. You can get your ult cancelled very easily, and Vitamin A have got to play with that in mind, and already at this point in time, be predicting where the zone is going and how they're going to get out of this position when the time comes.
Well, in the meantime, they are just going to be content sitting up here, just helping out a few different engagements that are going down all around them. It's very tense days out here. It's a lot of tentative movement, a lot of very cautious play going on here. I mean, this is about as cautious as we've seen Washed and Sloshed play all throughout the regular season, throughout any of the games today. They're willing to just sit in this trench and, again, just let it come to them. They don't want to not be involved in any final circles at this point in a game. And so they're confident to sit here. They're, you know, banking on the fact that the zone might close into this situation. And I think that they're actually doing a pretty good job of that, given what we know about what's going on.
If you want to make it to top 10, top 8, this is a really good spot. If Washed and Sloshed want to win, they're going to have to get more active pretty darn soon. It has nothing to do with the position and everything to do with the meds. Frapper, Prezi, and 8 Second don't have that much left to them, and they don't have any legends that inherently are going to give them a lot of survivability. Outside of the fact that Gibraltar's a support and can open those crates, there's just not that much they can do to get more shields or health. So as the game goes on, A big question for me is going to be whether they can take a fight aggressively, whether a team that is looking for the win is willing to risk that win to make it all the more comfortable. It'll be a defining feature of Washington Sloshed and has been up until this point. Now that they're on actual match point, I don't know whether their confidence is shaken a little bit.
Well, you've got to ask that question, right? I mean, it's worth asking at this point of any of the teams that are currently sitting on match point. And again, 12 teams left, round 3 closing. We're going to see a fourth circle that's potentially going to have 10 plus teams looking to vie for their spot in it. I mean, everybody is kind of poking and prodding right now, but sooner or later, there's going to be that first domino that falls. There's going to be the first hand dealt to one of these sides. And looks like in this little crevice here, there's some pressure being felt. Oh, there's a separate engagement going on. I thought that, I'm wondering if they realize that they can rotate around behind Washington Sloshed at this point. JJ maybe not even wanting to do so at this point. You have to expose yourself so much, and that's kind of what's good about Washington Sloshed position, is that if anybody is going to try to run up on them and shut them down, they're almost guaranteeing that they're going to go down in the process with everybody around them looking in that direction.
Nice shots out of Cat Dad, and a respectable name at that. Shoutouts to any Cat Dads out there. It's a difficult job. Boa Boys, they've got arguably one of the better positions. They've taken it away from Washington Sloshed, but have a lot of artificial HP that they can lay down with the Rampart, as BWB had the same thing, but have now been completely flanked and subsequently obliterated. Borzy the last one standing, and that won't last for very long. It's SCC on the aggressive rotate down to the south that take them out, and it is just in time to put SCC in a killer position for the next ring.
They're going to reap the benefits of it, and hats off to them, because of the 3 teams that have a chance at ending things in this very game, they've certainly been the most aggressive of the 3, and they're going to continue right on doing so, doing some more damage with that Nemesis. This thing can fry.
Doing a really good job of it so far. The meds that we're looking at. 8-second game and forced to slow heal underneath this bridge. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but Washed and Sloshed just do not have that many options. And 8-second gaming may even go down here. Vitamin A watching this engagement like hawks, watching their backs as well. There's a squad pushing up here. Would be a massive problem for them. That is a killer thermite, however, to keep Vitamin A more than comfortable right now, but they've got to look for their own rotation. Remember, we said getting off this high ground is going to be the most difficult thing. They're not going to be shot. The Valcolt isn't going to be canceled. And Vitamin A now have to find one place to land. Half the job is done, but the next half just as risky.
Oh, they're going to end up right in the middle of like 3 or 4 squads here. They've got to get far and deep. They're
landing.
Oh, are they landing on? They're going to try to
land
right on their
Washington
competition. Oh, Washington Sloshed, not a hand you want to be dealt at this point of the competition, and it looks like Crimson Lotus actually is going to be the ones to go down in this situation. And look at this, a change of scenario. Look who's sitting in this little crevice now. It's going to be Vitamin A trying to reap the benefits of what their competition Washington Sloshed have done previously. They're going to be pushed out of that position as they want to finish this part of the engagement. Boa Boys, Tecto Elite, both fall in tandem. A third squad, Ape Escape, is also going to be escaping from the lobby. Beyond Borealis falls. The dominoes left and right, Dia. It is just 4 teams left, and 3 of them have a chance to win it right here.
There's only one squad left that can really keep this lobby going. We've got a mobile respawn beacon out here as everyone wants to get their squad mates back in the game. Most of all, Washed and Sloshed, who sit on match point right now and who now have all of the loot that Boa Boys had combined. Little Optimus goes crazy with that G7 Scout, keeping Vitamin A safe. But looking at that Moby, that doesn't seem to have gone off just yet. These last 4 teams are going to be playing this with their breaths held.
Yeah, this is tense days right here. I mean, Vitamin A has all the shields, all the positioning, but so do SCC. And there's a 3rd team, or 4th team involved here, but this is a tall task for them. They're a duo looking to fight out from behind a really dire position here. SCC continuing to poke and do damage. Frapper is not in the best position, with Prezi already timed out, 8 seconds to fall. This may not be washed and sloshed today. Frapper doing his best, trying for the last second heroics that his team needs at this point. As SCC smells blood, they're coming in. They're looking to end this for washed and sloshed.
The cancel on the res as well. Frapper knows that it's over, turns tail and runs down to the low ground. But even with these rampart walls, the caustic gas, no matter the defense, it's one man against two titans. And here they come from both sides. Vitamin A throwing shots back at Balance, who finally managed to survive an early game, only to make it to the tensest end game of all time. Frapper is still technically alive though, and has a barrier between SCC and the potential win. We'll see what he can do. Washed and Sloshed do go down. SCC still have to contend with Vitamin A. The winningest squads of the day up against each other, one on high, one on low. SCC have the cover to do this. They've got the pressure, but both teams are focused on Balance, who are held out in the middle of the water.
Yeah, they want to deal with this squad that's putting pressure on the outside of this fight. SCC gets the first down in the big engagement. Tay's going to get a second one.
They got the second!
Tay is going huge right now. Big damage. Huge positioning. Lua and GG realizes the situation in Vitamin A is going to fall. SCC now just have to deal with the last team, but it's tough. They're getting third-partied right now for the win. Can they pull it off?
The Mirage is confusing them. SCC are just trying to finish off a kill. They get that first knock, they find the second. It's one member left between SCC and the win in the TELUS Esports Series. Those are your champions. SCC win the intermediate division.
St. Clair College, say it loud, say it proud. They've done it. They've won in fashionable succession to their previous wins. This is huge from them. Hats off to all teams that participated in this one, because this was an end game for the ages.
But I know this one hits especially hard for you, Crackshot. As you said, alumni. SCC finding the win right now has been well-deserved throughout their journey through this regular season. They started the regular season in 13th place. They climbed their way all the way up to 4th. And the final day of the finals, they end up clinching first. That is an amazing improvement story from an already very talented squad.
Absolutely, and I got to give my hats off to, Sean Burney, Chris Funston, guys running the program over at St. Clair College there for bringing these teams into events like these and then performing as well as they did when the most is asked from them. They were behind the 8 ball. They were the third team to reach match point, and they come out with 2 huge wins, a third to cap it off in the last game of the night today. I mean, what else could you ask for? A huge finish from them, of course, trying not to show my bias too much, but I have to. It's the alma mater for me. It's the program that I've watched grow into what it is, and now taking home huge titles like this, the TELUS Esports Series 2. Hats off to those guys. Hats off to all the competitors for giving us such an entertaining day of Apex Legends.
Yeah, this was absolutely incredible, and it's because we're watching this as well with the context of the regular season. Crackshot, this is the TELUS Esports Series. This is built for gaming communities around Canada, and not all of them had that competitive experience at the top level. Almost no one in this lobby had played in a match point format before. So to see them play through the entire regular season, get better and better, then finish this off, all 20 of these teams, with a performance in the finals in the premier format of Apex Legends, I say bravo.
Of course, golf claps all around, and of course the prize goes to them as well, but there's prizes all up and down the scoreboard for these teams, and really the prize for us is that we got to witness such a 6-game long marathon today. An event that really is the first of its kind for a lot of teams in Canada, especially for teams to fight in this intermediate division. A lot of teams get a new experience here, and just so happy to have been able to be a part of it and to be able to bring this kind of stuff to you guys. Of course, we looked at the scoreboard. We're hats off to the winners of that are SCC, but we've got actually 3 more finals. There's 3 more divisions that still have to fight it out here. 3 more for Dia, myself, and a couple other talented casters who you guys are going to see coming in. Next week, it's going to be a huge event, and so happy for everybody involved that they get to participate and play for these prizes, play for the pride, play for the honor of winning an event like this, and really giving us those entertaining end games.
Yeah, mark your calendars, as our next finals are going to be our beginner finals on March 31st at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Then we've got our advanced and open division finals on Saturday, April 1st. That's going to be starting at 3 p.m. Eastern because we've got 2 divisions playing it out that day. It has been a joy to commentate this for all of you, and a big thank you to all of our players. We've, of course, got to give a thank you to Crackshot, who has been on the desk with me all day. It has been such a joy. Our production team has made this all possible, and it would be remiss not to mention our sponsors, GameCon Canada, HyperX, NanoLeaf, and Xbox, for making an event like this, the TELUS Esports Series, possible. That's it for the finals of our intermediate division. We will be back, as I said, on March 31st with the finals for our beginner division, so we'll catch you then. Especially when you get it going, and probably about as relaxing as this. This is a nice moment of peace in what is otherwise terrifying VR to play. We got the jacuzzi going, and in this sense, the squad right next door to you. But out goes the Arcstar. The truth is broken. Big crack for Schist, who takes down Mr. Blitz. This is our duo from earlier. That means 1-octane's on the floor, and 1-octane will be no more.
Where's he at?
On the other side. Right here. Hack, knock one. We win! Let's go!
Okay, blood down. 33.
I'm shielding.
Cracked one. Coming closer. Scanning now. Drop
Crack
one.
Drop one, yeah. Nope.
Cracked him. Got him.
Nice.
I'm tethered.
can. You're sold.
I just punched this in the range though. They're both inside! I'm going on this! My fence hit one.
On the roof with me.
Knocked her. Wait, he's coming up. Last one.
On me, I'm down. Right. On the roof.
50 on her. I'm pushing.
I clicked the charge. I couldn't get it.
Jeez.
Let's go, boys.
So it's done.
He's got a knock over here. Got another knock on it. Playing in his knock. 140 off him, Aaron. Got him all. Let's go. Get inside.
Keep going. Back door. CC4 Catalyst, we have to push off, eh? Push him. Down. Keep going. Keep back door. CC4 Catalyst, we have to push on, I think. Push him. Down. Down two. Crazy damn. I'm batting. Last one here, please. All dead.
What's going on, guys? It's the Ma here.
I'm Cheesy Potato.
Yeah, I'm playing in the TELUS Invitational.
I've always really been a gamer, playing Halo, and then I eventually transitioned into Call of Duty, into Fortnite as Battle Royales became a little more popular. And then I eventually stepped into Apex Legends. The thought of becoming a content creator was just a mere dream that I had. My brother, Dr. Moz, pushed me out of my comfort zone to essentially start streaming, and that's when the grind for competitive Apex and chasing high Apex Predator ranks began.
Started Apex at day zero, first day the game came out. And yeah, I worked hard then. I was playing on console at first and just playing pubs all the time with a couple buddies. The longer Apex went on, the more serious I got about it. I started putting in more hours, putting more work, making more content, like falling in love with the game in general. The only advice that I would give is basically just grind and put in the hours. It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Just find like a solid group of friends that have the same mindset as you and then just grind.
The biggest thing is putting yourself out there, whether that's chasing high ranks for content creation or to start scrimming and competing in tournaments at the highest levels, such as the Apex TELUS tournament.
Confidence in this push. Three members Hooch stands still, takes so much damage there. Out goes the Thermite, maybe doing a good bit of work as well. Nemesis is going to get shut down as running and cannot connect through against the AR. Geriatrics empowered to push up, lose one, lose a second to that Thermite. Jim from HR showing up in the kill feed, but Reverend, the last one standing as he goes down, and the Geriatrics take down Jump Dogs. Rounding the corner, Babaloo not able to answer back. Hipfire nerf really coming in big there. In between a rock and Jim from HR who is coming for you. The Geriatrics do lose one. In comes the swing, and Arsenal finds a lot of damage. Taken down King from the low ground. Rexy dipping and dodging behind these crates, manages to survive. Reverend's gonna go on the flank, but overshoots just a little bit, gives up the high ground, gets punched in the mouth, and Rexy finds the 1v2 before...
C'est craft, on voit sur le crafter. La valque, quand il voit son shield.
Non, non, je suis dans la bank.
Fini.
He's trash. C'est à moi, c'est moi. Le, ça craque là-bas.
Occupe-toi-en. C'est pas quelque chose.
Beaucoup de dégâts là-bas. Un down. Là. Nice! Oh my god!
My name is V Roses.
My name is Tay.
My name is Matt, otherwise known as Zilla.
Actually, my coworker who inspired me to get into Apex. Currently, I'm a competitive Apex player for the St. Clair Saints at Senka College. I played Apex casually since Season 7 for a couple seasons, and I peaked Masters twice, and I didn't really think about it until when I moved here and I found SEC.
What started me in my journey as a content creator was my competitive side. I used to play soccer, so you just get this rush, and you're like, oh, I want to be part of something bigger or like better, see where it could take me, you never know.
Probably about a year ago, I was just playing games for fun since I was 11 or 12, but back on console. When I got my computer, it just opened up a bunch of new possibilities, and I had a lot of friends throughout Winnipeg that were associated with like Lotus 8. They needed somebody to play Apex, and that was the game that I was spending most of my time on.
My advice to aspiring competitors would be to put yourself out there. I know us gamers were pretty introverted, but networking and showcasing your skills online really helps, especially when it comes to getting recognition and putting your name out there.
Honestly, just be yourself and being consistent. I feel like consistency is like one of the biggest things because people like seeing consistency. For competitors, muscle memory, like sometimes before I go to bed, I go in the firing range and I practice so I can keep the muscle memory of like the patterns of the guns, the recoil patterns.
My advice for aspiring competitors would be to follow your dreams. Anybody can do any of this pro player stuff. Anybody can be anyone they want to be. Practice a lot. Find a good group of people who are willing to do that with you and have mutual goals.
The thing that I'm most concerned about for LPB right now is their rotation. It will take them through fragments. Showing off the new Wraith emote. Let's go!
Let's go!
Quelqu'un très devant moi, reste là. Down, éliminé. 17, en haut. Val qui est down. Devant toi, Max. Sur Max, sur les deux sont sur Max. Il en reste un. Il est crack.
Il est long. Enfin, il est pas long, mais il saute. Ils ont sorti.
C'est fini. C'est moi.
Ah, je suis là, madame.
Vas-y, reste.
Reste. Deux mon kill. Je les shot.
Reste-moi, stop temps.
Yeah, boy.
First drop onto Cuba Amo.
Good opening there, support, good damage coming in here. Oh, the backslide, getting a little spicy with it, frantic.
This fight would be over. That off drop would already be pushing, they would already be CEROing, and there would be nothing left for you to do. But Roller Crush are getting to play both sides to fight, and then go up against each other. That off drop goes down, and it's a matter for Roller Crush to just get to farm it up off of this portal. Veterans falls, and Roller Crush.
I think it dropped off.
Very well could be. Roller Crush having lost one yet again. It's Steve that's gone down, but again, it's going to be Apostle that clutches it up.
You're trying to find a little bit more to
work with than just the wingman, but early on, is a wingman all you need? That's exactly what Beard needs. He's going to shut one down. Just landing these shots left and right. Just, no, this is the final player. They just shut him down, let him get a punch, and that's it.
No, one more.
Bro, you got to see what they did.
World's Edge.
World's Edge.
World's Edge. That's it. I'm a Wraith main. I love World's Edge. I love my buildings.
World's Edge.
World's Edge, of course. I'm a caustic main.
R301.
The flatline does so much damage. The hip fire is insane. Now it's 10 times better than the R301. Definitely the flatline.
R3.
Flatline.
R301 every day of the week.
Oh, 100% the card.
Volt.
That's tough.
Car.
Car.
But I'm gonna have to go with the Volt. 3x on the 301, the Hemlock, or the Charge Rifle.
2x Bruiser.
2 times Bruiser.
2 times HCOG.
The 2 to 4 is insane. It used to be the 3 times, but now it's the 2 to 4.
I like the Assault class.
Assault.
Oh, Wraith. Oh, my baby girl, she got a buff, and the animations with her hands look so good. I was like, oh my god, they spoiled her. I was so happy.
I'd definitely say Controller is my favorite, mainly because I am a caustic main.
Probably the controller. I'm more of a zone type player as well as an anchor, so the control would be great for me.
They're on a car.
Oh,
Yeah. We're on a high-speed chase.
Face him. Yo, what's going on?
Crack. What is this game?
I'm lagging.
Jag sprängväggar den. Är down. Je tombe dessus. Il est sur le pad, il est mort. Un down. Chill.
Oh no, down here, bro. Three. Actually three. I down one. Doctor cracked the wall. Will you shoot the catalyst? She's down. I'm gonna grenade her. One more in the corner.
Yep.
Dead.
He's one.
I got her.
Box ulting.
I got her.
Nice. Right here. Teams out there. Last one. Last team. Nice.
Watson Fence is my king. Bronze Bonobos, they're popping in on the other end of this engagement. Seeing if they do, Molten Mania almost completely shreds a red shield, starts to make this impossible, and what an angle! Not have a lot of cover, but I believe have a little bit of low ground.
Never mind.
Play maybe a head peek, and oh my lord! It's the dreams of yet another cut short.
But again, how do you push this without putting your team in too much jeopardy? That's the question.
So few legends that can actually find you a different way up there. Horizon being one, Pathfinder being another now, but here it comes. Shinbi's already put this out, and it means that Big Smashers get to take the fight up against the 2-man squad of level 4 Gucci Purse and wipe the floor with them, along with Lane as well. I mean, LTB got a lot of competitive experience here. I think they don't have a ton of cover proficiency. Lane left wondering what the next move is going to do, trying to push Marsh next nearly as well as the crafted Volt that Marsh has. Up goes the Catalyst Wall. It forces out the Seer ult, and Wee Poutine are going for the end here. Take the swing on Molten Mania, and yet he gets knocked. Pergix fighting back as Wee Poutine do trade in the 1-for-1. Brodon gets some good damage down with the R99, and it is enough. Push them out. The Bronze Bonobos have to drop down, have to take this 2v2 against the Milkers, and now a chance to drop down to play this Wraith knockdown shield. They keep him down, and yet Bronze Bonobos have cover as well. 2 versus 1, and it should be their game. The Bronze Bonobos from second, now finally find first.
What's going on, guys? It's the Ma here.
I'm Cheesy Potato.
Yeah, I'm playing in the TELUS Invitational.
I've always really been a gamer, playing Halo, and then I eventually transitioned into Call of Duty, into Fortnite as Battle Royales became a little more popular. And then I eventually stepped into Apex Legends. The thought of becoming a content creator was just a mere dream that I had. My brother, Dr. Moz, pushed me out of my comfort zone to essentially start streaming, and that's when the grind for competitive Apex and chasing high Apex Predator ranks began.
Started Apex at day zero, first day the game came out. And yeah, I worked hard then. I was playing on console at first and just playing pubs all the time with a couple buddies. The longer Apex went on, the more serious I got about it. I started putting in more hours, putting in more work, making more content, like falling in love with the game in general. The only advice that I would give is basically just grind and put in the hours. It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Just find like a solid group of friends that have the same mindset as you and then just grind.
The biggest thing is putting yourself out there, whether that's chasing high ranks for content creation or to start scrimming and competing in tournaments at the highest levels, such as the Apex TELUS tournament.